All right, we are live at the Microsoft MTC here in Malvern, Pennsylvania, where the sun is still out here, pushing 20 minutes till 9, I would say.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing about summer is for a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after, you know, I think the sun stays up until close to 9, so it's awesome. We can be out close to say 9 p.m. shooting some hoops or playing a little street hockey or going to a studio so that we can talk tech. But anyways,
I was gonna say the ice cream man.
oh gosh,
I mean, you know, Ice Cream Man's pretty cool.
He's got a
you know?
nice long afternoon, but you know, so I have neglected to mention again, this is our Philly.net after show that's not after a meetup. So I'm Chris Gomez, and I've got Andy Schwam here, and I'm gonna probably struggle with that for the next
You got it right.
6 months or so.
You got
I know,
it, Andy Schwam. You mean struggle having me here, or
no,
struggle
I'm gonna
with my
struggle
name?
with getting the name right because for
Probably.
the longest time I looked at the Twitter handle and my brain said Schwammy.
He always thought it was Schwam.
Yeah,
You got
so
it right
that was
today,
wrong.
though.
I did get it right.
I'm just glad to be here.
I'll have
Call
to
me what
think
you want.
about it. Yeah,
Just don't
call me whatever you want.
Don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah. So last week we did not have our Philly.net stream because it was our Kids Can Code night, which was a pretty big success. The room was completely full. We had over 100 kids and adults together. Kids were learning to do Hour of Code, the Hour of Code exercises from code.org for Minecraft. That's a big mouthful, but it turns out if you go to code.org, there's tons of different exercises and paths.
Cool stuff.
And in the older kids were doing Azure machine learning and data analysis. They were doing a project that had to do with you could predict the price of the car based on its features. And
I've done that demo. I know that
Okay.
example. I remember that example, not from that.
Yeah, I hadn't
It's
seen
like
it.
an example I'd used before. Wait, you just gotta. Can I?
I know.
interrupt for
I
a
understand.
second?
It was a mouthful.
You just said to me. You just said the older kids were doing
Yeah.
machine learning.
Right. Absolutely.
What year is
No, I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. We had
That is the greatest thing I've
a
ever heard.
speaker here who has spoke at our code camp twice now.
Yeah.
She's now 17 years old, senior in high school, but she's spoken for the last couple of years here to our pros, to our professional development community, and said, why don't I like Kids Can Code to be kids teaching kids.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate and lucky and blessed really to find kids every year.
Yeah.
Because let's say we can't find somebody, then we probably would take it upon ourselves to do a lab or something. But
The kids like it.
I really want it to be kids teaching
Yeah, they
kids.
like it when it's a kid teaching
Yeah.
them. They feel that's like empowering on both sides.
No, it is, and I love it. And the only problem is they grow up, they turn 18, they go to college, and so then I gotta go find new kids.
Find a new kid.
But in this
gotta
case,
find the new kids on the block.
She was, except that's old kids. It was fantastic. We had a great time, and then my daughter and I came in here and talked a little bit about it afterwards.
How cool was that?
Yeah, she certainly can't wait to be streaming herself. That's a goal of hers.
Really?
She wants
That's
to be a streamer.
exciting.
It makes her mother.
What's her
excited,
topic going to be?
sure.
It's not tech, or is it?
Well, maybe.
Okay.
But at the same time, she would definitely, if she were here, she would probably say that she wants to stream Minecraft and NHL.
Not like
Xbox.
puppies or how about hockey?
Well, like NHL 19, she would
right.
stream,
Okay.
and Minecraft, and what else is she playing right now? Those are the two big ones that she's playing. So I think definitely that's what she'd like to do. So we're coming up next week here at Philly.net. We're back to our meeting schedule. We'll be on at our normal meeting time, which meetings start at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We come on live here, and we will have a hands-on lab, and it is about a topic we come back to every few months or so. It's about Blazor, which is the cool new thing. It's the cool new web framework that's coming.
It's cool. Who doesn't want to do Blazor?
Yeah, and everybody's super excited about it, and I don't, we're going to take a look at it again because it seems that every few previews it sort of takes a big evolution, and you kind of have to start over with people and say, so a lot has changed.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that, and then we'll be in here again at the after show, probably taking a look at some of the code more in depth, a little bit closer look. So who we have not introduced at all is Rich Ross behind the camera, who has been getting this thing going.
He's working while we're here
He's
hanging
been
out.
working hard. I mean, I didn't want to interrupt the flow because, the stream is off and running.
Yep.
But it was like like anything, some last minute of bringing in cables and plugging in stuff, and
All,
fantastic work back there.
all the wires end to end said you should be on this channel,
Yeah.
and I hit that channel and I see a blank screen.
And you say, where is everybody?
So yeah, so we've got all the little technical demons out. The stream is live, and the chat room is open and ready. So
Awesome.
as for people who are online listening, and as we go through content here, feel free to ask your questions or just even put a comment around what it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So a project that we started here a few streams ago, maybe a month ago, was we wanted to kind of tackle the question of how should you get started on a new development project.
Classic ASP.
Yes, classic history. We wanted to go back to the beginning.
Back to our roots.
No.
No.
So, but it was a question that viewers have had a few times where they've said, you know, and this is a loaded question, is what's the right way to do this? Right, which of course we could that could be the whole topic of the show. We could just talk about that for an hour.
Well, the best part about it is we could talk about that for an hour, and then in the following week's show, if the same question came up, we would have totally different answers.
Yeah, we could talk about it again.
We'd talk about it again.
So in this case, what we did is we have already, you know, we went to GitHub and we created a project.
Yep.
And then we struggled with Azure DevOps because the first thing that Rich and I agreed upon is that before we really do anything, we should get the CI/CD pipeline going.
Right.
And
that we all agree is the right, you know,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of these questions, like you just said, what's
Yep.
the right way to do this? There's a lot of right ways to do things, but that whole that simple statement right there
Yep.
holds so true.
continuous
Day one.
integration, continuous
Day one.
deployment pipeline, day one, which is actually an attitude you're seeing at enterprise.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're seeing it with customers. I'm sure you're seeing it at work, and I can tell you I'm seeing it. I'm
Yeah.
seeing that attitude at work.
So when you say you're seeing that attitude,
Yeah.
because one of the things when we talk to customers is they almost have this sense of, well, I've got these enterprise projects, and that, yep, absolutely, totally bought in, and I will do it that way. But it's a one-off project. You know, it's just me.
Right.
I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just trying something out, and that's the one that, unfortunately, sometimes some of
Yes.
those wind up being those larger enterprise projects.
And how long have you been deploying off that for your own laptop again?
Right.
Yeah, I
There's
I
no
agree
such
with
thing as
you.
a prototype, by the way.
No,
right?
no.
It goes live.
because somebody looks at it, and says, that's awesome. Can you do this, this, and this?
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. So the question is, does your organization, do you have the ability? Because some places you don't. Do you have the ability and the infrastructure and the setup, and you put the time in to kind of rule with an iron fist on this and
Mhm.
say, if you want that thing to go anywhere but your laptop, I'm talking any machine in our data center, any instance of a platform as a service, cloud, anything, you're going through a pipeline that we've established, and you lock the doors to everything else.
Yeah, but I'm not going to production. I'm just going to
I'm
QA.
just going right here, right?
I'm just,
So I can give you
you're
a
not falling
hybrid.
for that devil's advocate
I
thing
actually,
there, right? I mean,
and you know,
but-
this is timely because I had a conversation today with a very bright team that I work with. I mean, this team, you know, really seems to be up on use cases with different cloud services. They are putting together real projects. They're using the tools, and it seems the approach they've taken is that they do like the developer to go ahead and explore right in if they're using Azure, the Azure portal, if they're using a friendly competitive cloud, their portal. They don't mind about that, which is something that's a conversation that I think happens with some enterprises. So they're going ahead and letting them work, but it's still in the context of your own world. If you wanted to get out of your own machine, your own purview, it's got to get into their CI/CD.
One way to
pipeline.
control that and Rich and I know we've talked about this a little bit. We have various subscriptions at work, right? We've got our production subscription,
Okay.
which certainly needs
Yeah.
you know controls on it. We've got our dev test subscription where we have QA and UAT testing and sys test and things like that. But if people want to play around, use your personal. I was going to call it your MSDN subscription because that just goes
Sure.
to the back of my
Right.
head. Your personal Visual Studio subscription, your personal Azure subscription, which is tied to our Active Directory because it's owned by the organization, right?
Yep.
But use that as your playground. You
Mhm.
don't need any CI/CD. You know, you don't have to have DevOps around
Right.
that. I mean, you could. A good place to practice as well.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. You want to play around. That's your
Yeah.
playground. You want to go do anything else, I want to see it going through pipelines.
And actually, I think, and so I feel like that's an approach that I saw this group take. It was an interesting approach. The team's really competent. They focus so much on costs and bringing costs down, and it seems to be working. Really interesting to watch that in action because, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the slides and you've watched the presentations about how, you're going to bring costs down in the cloud and only pay for what you use. And it's so funny because I remember hearing all those conversations at the car dealers too when they're trying to say you want to lease. But so I'm like,
so wait,
I mean,
so did the Microsoft just become used car
well,
salesman?
that's the problem is that that's the only pay for what you use. That originally, I mean, that was something that's been said for 30 years, 40 years, to people that wanted to go buy a car. Like, you don't want to buy a car, you want to lease it. Well, guess what? It turns out that here was a team that had solid statistics to say, the more we move, and if you put IaaS, infrastructure as a service, even infrastructure as a service, VMs in the cloud that you now own and patch and configure, you put that on the left, you put platform as a service on the right, and you consider there's a continuous spectrum here. The more they moved right, the more money they save. They directly correlate it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But that's not a DevOps talk,
It's-
right? So we've drifted. I just
Yeah.
want to...
Right. So,
but that's not a wrong... Rich is like, no, let's stay
it's
on
like
that topic
it's
for a
kind
minute.
of DevOps. Like, why are we doing this? Where it's about shifting.
I will say this, though. The problem with that, I think, it's not the problem. I agree
Right.
100%. Except that we're struggling. I have to keep reminding people in my organization, and they understand it. They know it. I talked to my boss, and he's like, I know, Andy. I'm with you, but I want to keep reminding him. We're not going to see the savings yet.
Yeah.
Because we still have our data center.
Yeah.
We're in this transitionary state where we have both, right? We're paying Azure costs and we're paying for our data center.
I've seen some other case studies show a rise and then a fall.
And so that's a tricky thing for. I just want to add it to that conversation to say, be prepared for that sort of hopefully short term bump in costs.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have both for a while.
And if you're new to the cloud, oftentimes that conversation may be that, you've over allocated resources or you've done things at a level you don't need to. And we do see it with customers where you get that big peak and then you do the optimization and you kind of bring things back in line with what makes sense. I think the other thing with that, cost is one of those aspects you get by moving, I think they said moving to the right and going from IaaS.
I went the wrong direction actually because we're going to talk about shifting left in a little bit.
But we'll talk about that in a sec. But moving, when we present it, it's usually from left to right, on-prem, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS even, software as a service. But as you do that, you gain, at least when I talk about it with customers, you gain two things. You gain agility, that ability to deploy that new application without having to spin up resources on premises or CVF right storage on premises, even just by moving to IaaS. But you also get security because of the layers, the underlying infrastructure layers that get covered by Azure or your cloud provider. And then when you move to PaaS, there's another level of security. You have to follow the core middleware and the services that run on it. So moving your dial to the left is going to give you costs or savings in other areas that aren't just cost.
And from my experience, a lot of those savings, if you want to call it that, are sanity.
Yeah.
Like as a developer, I'll say as a developer but I'm not a developer. Sometimes I'm a developer.
Once a developer, always a developer.
I'm a developer. But there's sanity. Like it's nice to know that some of this stuff is handled for me.
Right.
And I don't have to think about that. It's almost like security as a service. Like software as a service, like all these things are as a service. Like it's there for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to think about it as much.
Yeah.
But you do have to consider some of that stuff.
Sure.
It's not all like out of the box. It's nice to know those features are there.
Different level of thinking about it, right?
Different
frequency. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a product, Azure Dev Ops. It's not the only product in the world you can use for continuous integration and deployment. But what's nice about it is it isn't the only one, right? There's a lot of them, and they're all great. And the great thing about Azure Dev Ops is that they even have demonstrations right in their DevOps labs about how you can plug in your favorite pieces in different parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you say, I really like Bitbucket, fine, use Bitbucket. I really like GitHub, fine, use it. Or no, I want to use Azure Repos. Great. And then I do remember seeing some DevOps labs for integrating testing from other sources, integrating Jenkins if you really want to.
Yeah.
Amazing, right? That instead of it's amazing that it's a series of Lego bricks. You pick the ones you like, and they still all fit back together. With integrations that seem to be, they're being provided in the product.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool.
And I think that's part of the story, right? Most companies have some form of CI/CD testing, something on premises for what their developers. So for those places where you don't have the pieces that Azure might have, at least this gives you that initial way to integrate with, and then decide for yourself, does that do it better than what I'm currently doing? For some cases, yes. For some cases, no. But there are those options for you by having that flexibility in the framework.
Yeah, I mentioned, I think last time I was on, that we're using build pipelines that connect to Octopus Deploy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's a great third party solution for deployments and things like that. And we're going to be using a mixture for a while of Azure pipelines and Octopus Deploy.
Right. But you're
projects.
building.
But the point is that you can connect the bots, right? It connects really well.
So I'm just curious, just to finish that out.
Yeah.
You're building in the Azure DevOps product in Azure. They call it Azure Pipelines. It's a build pipeline, but instead of a release pipeline, that artifact gets pushed somewhere, copied somewhere.
Yeah, well, we're doing that. We have some reasons why we're using Octopus for some of the stuff, but the point is, we basically in our build has a task that creates an Octopus package. And then it takes that Octopus package and it publishes it to Octopus. And from that point, Octopus can take over, or we can have another build task that might sort of initiate the deployment for us, right?
Okay.
Sort of the trigger that you need some kind of trigger.
Yeah.
There's various ways to do it.
Right.
But and we've tried a few different ways, and they're all kind of easy, really. Like none of them were hard to do, and it integrated really well. It's just this is another example of this isn't your father's Microsoft or whatever. Like they play well with others,
The moral of the story to me is the fact that, let me guess, Octopus Deploy was already part of your world there. You already were using it, already familiar with it, and you brought in Azure Dev Ops.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
good, right?
Right. It made the transition smooth.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about redoing our deployment pipeline.
You said, I've already got that.
We've already
now,
got
you
that.
might switch.
And that's
and
a
you
whole
might
other
not.
conversation. Right. Exactly. But we didn't have to worry about it. It worked day one.
Yep.
Every one of the deployments we had worked fine.
Which is, I think,
it was great.
I think that's exactly why what was once called Visual Studio Team Services and delivered a lot of, you could do a lot of this stuff in the VSTS Online. There was automatic builds and all those things. I think part of why, and I don't know this for a fact, but you sort of sense that when they sat down to say, okay, let's build this new version, it was, hey, we know a problem with the old version is we're asking customers to adopt it all, or, oh, maybe we could make it work, but you might suffer a little bit. So can we do it so that you don't suffer?
1M.
Yeah. Oh.
But
two M's in the Twitter.
Schwammy has 2 M's.
Yeah.
Schwam has 1. It's all right.
A Schwammy.
Schwammy.
Not Schwammy. Not like
It's
no
not,
Schwammies.
why would I call it Schwammy?
Because the Schwammies.
I learned my name when I was a little kid.
When you stop and you hit the Schwammy comes out.
By the way, I sent you a
jumps
link
up on the money.
that show's coming back.
Again,
yeah.
Oh,
there it is. That's me. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
My favorite.
You put your name under when you're on. Does it have your name?
No.
You need that same thing too.
All right. So, what I think we can try to do.
Yeah, let's get into this.
Is do we have my screen, by the way? Okay, good.
It works now.
Because so as part of the.
So surprised. No, I'm saying thanks. You were the one working while we were talking on the show. You were back there.
Yeah, that's
making it happen.
We were pausing and we were holding off on bringing Rich in because he was hard at work getting my desktop going here. And so if you're brand new to Azure DevOps, this is just dev.azure.com, and then you log in with your Microsoft account, and you can get started for free. And I think we've even talked about for small teams of 5 users or less, you can just start sending them invites today, and it all just starts working, and you can start doing builds, and it's great. You can at least get your feet wet, and you could probably actually do a lot more than I'm saying. I make it sound like you can only play a little bit. There are some very popular .NET open source projects that have moved to Azure Pipelines, part of Azure DevOps, and they're not paying anything, I'm sure. So
yeah, I think there's a lot you can do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done some of this before on the show, and I promise that this is the last time we'll start at the beginning. But part of the reason is
I don't believe you.
because part of the reason is that we got a little hung up, Andy, is that we did a show just before Build, and where we did what we're about to do now. And then when Rich and I came back after Build, little did we realize that some of the Build announcements changed by default the tasks that you would see in Azure DevOps.
Mm-hmm.
And those newer tasks weren't compatible. At least they didn't seem compatible with the older ones. And we couldn't figure out how to get anything to work. I mean, that was like a 2-hour show because I was baffled. And it wasn't until finally it sort of hit both of us that, wait a second, didn't they announce a bunch of changes at Build? We should wipe this out because
sometimes it's good.
It seems like they've. So that's actually an interesting problem for Azure DevOps, is they want to move. And not saying that I'm an expert on how this works, but you can kind of see it in the interface now and then. They want to move and release very quickly, but you can't leave behind the customers with working pipeline. So, but our pipeline wasn't finished though. It was this. So we left it half finished, and then we wondered why we couldn't finish it. But I think
these are the struggles that what I think is cool about a show like
right.
this and other live streamers where people are coding live is it's real.
Oh, yeah.
Like developers,
right.
when you're going to do this the first time, so many times in my talks, I'll say, "Oh, you got to go back to work, next week and do that. This is easy." And I say, oh, "This is easy. This is easy." It's easy, but it's not easy, right?
Well, right.
It's easy because you've done it.
Well, it's easy when you've done it.
And
right?
if you're going to do a presentation, how many
once
times did you try
it? You go, oh, it's only one line. All I need to do is hit one button.
Yep.
But the other thing I say is, step 1 is easy in isolation. Step 2 is easy in isolation. Step 3 is easy in isolation. Making those 3 steps work together can be complicated with moving parts.
Yeah.
They're changing these things on us all the time, right? And so these shows, I think, reinforce when people are at their desk at work and they're banging their heads against the wall thinking like, oh God, I watched the demo at Build. They made it look so easy.
I know they made it look so
What's
easy.
What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're like everyone else. There's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
I
agree.
So it's good.
I agree. So I don't know that we have a goal that what we are doing is we are making a prototype for a possible future Philly.net website. The plan is to use Blazor, but tonight we're not going to use Blazor, and there's a specific reason, is because which I think we'll get to a little bit about why we're not using Blazor.
Okay.
We'll see if it comes up in conversation. But now next week we're doing hands-on lab in Blazor, so maybe we get back to it.
I could ask, then it will come up in conversation. I can say, hey,
why wouldn't you just use Blazor? Yeah. So the very first thing you need a repository, right? So I'm not sure this will be the final repository. And since we're not going to stick with it, I'm going to just call it PDN for Philly.net Razor Pages. We're not going to use Razor Pages.
My first question?
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask the question.
Yep.
So we're talking about Azure DevOps.
Yep.
And here we are. You're using Git.
Why are you in GitHub? Yes.
So
That's
why are
a
you
great
using
question.
GitHub?
And
I think I know the answer.
So the answer this time is that I think it's fair to say if you're going to build an open source project that you want the world to see, you're gonna use GitHub.
And I think that's a good answer.
Yeah,
I really do.
I think that's it.
But I felt it was worth explaining
yes.
if people are watching and go, well, but why aren't you using the tool that you're saying is a great tool?
Right.
So.
And I think we will take a tour of Azure repos in the future.
Okay.
Azure repos is great. Azure repo and Azure
good
repos
for
has
private
public.
repo. Yeah, they do have
it
public.
has public, but you kind of feel, and
I feel like my public stuff goes in Git.
In GitHub.
My private stuff goes in Azure.
We might be speaking at a turn, and if the Azure DevOps PMs were here, they might say, "Oh my gosh, that's not what we want people to think at all." But you feel like the DNA of Azure repos is for your team,
right?
And its privacy.
I think so.
Although we're going to see in just a second, I can click public.
Yeah,
I mean, just a second, you can click it. So,
but anyway, so keep going. I didn't want
right.
too far.
But no, we actually, I agree with you, and that's
I'm speaking here for the viewer. I'm saying, hey,
Right.
why are you doing this?
now. Here's a question I have. I will tell you what I like to do, and then you can tell me whether you think really why do you do it this way. I could just create this repository right now, and then we can go head out to my source directory after we start the project and do a git init, and then push that up here. But I have come to a place where I actually prefer to go the other direction and go to GitHub first, say initialize the repository with a README,
and then
add the git ignore
right
straight out of, and there's a place where all these git ignores come from. There is a git ignore repo in GitHub.
Of course.
And Visual Studio is a great one. I want that one. And then I think I want the MIT license. So for me, I get this for free just with some clicks.
Yeah.
And I create the repository. I go the other direction. I bring this down, and then I open my project up in there. And that is a Chris Gomez special. You could go the other direction. I could certainly make these files on my own, put them into a repo, and push them up.
So if you create the project, if you don't initialize it here, and Visual Studio will create a git ignore for you.
Okay. Yes.
Right. So that's one thing it will do for you, but it won't, as far as I know, create a license like an MIT, that kind of thing, right?
Right. So I kind of feel like that's
but
a
I
good
think this is a good
commit.
pattern. I think this is an example where I don't know if there's a right or wrong. I think there's what's comfortable for you, and that's the
I don't
pattern
really think there is either. Because if
I can tell you what won't work well is if you create it. I've got burned a few times where I created it here, and then I did something in Visual Studio, and then when I tried to push, it says no because there's already things in the repo, and you didn't pull. Like it can get mixed up if you don't have a pattern that works well for you.
So we are frozen again.
We're frozen,
which is what I was hoping.
So your laptop is frozen. We're not frozen, but the device is. And you sure it's still frozen?
Yeah, it is, because look at the screen I'm on.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
No, it's fine. We tried wiring things a little different, saying like this will solve it.
Just like everything else we said, like things don't always go right.
No,
and that's the nature of doing things live. You could turn your computer around and just point it at the camera.
We're gonna zoom the camera in. So, in any case, I have my repo, and then the first thing I'm gonna do is clone it down, and then I'm gonna ask. I can't wait to do a file new project in Visual Studio because I kind of want your thoughts on setting up a new web project from the mindset of I'm actually gonna use this at work, not what we do at home, where we just go, found a new project, let's go, because I'm not really going to keep this thing. I'm not keeping it. I'm messing around.
Wait, you mean not Web App 1?
Yeah,
Web
not Web App
Application 1?
153.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Right.
So first of all, I need to get this down on my system. So the workflow I'm comfortable with is I'll click this and I will grab this URL. And it's just because I'm super comfortable with saying I'm just going to go out to the command prompt, which I'm in the habit of just running as admin. I could set that, so it would always do that. I like to keep my source. That should be larger. Why is that? Well, let's make it 24 so everyone can see it comfortably.
Boom.
All right. I like having all my source here. Since I grabbed that git URL, I can do a git clone and just paste it in, and boom, here I go. I'm here.
And you're a command line guy for this kind of stuff, which is great.
Some
like
things,
you're comfortable. I personally, and again, it's not a right or wrong. I would use Visual Studio and say clone the repo.
Yeah.
And it's just 6 of one, half a dozen. Sometimes there's a better or worse, but I think in this case.
So watch how I work. Yeah. I find it unique how I work here. So then.
Are you gonna do new?
Then I say to myself, I kind of want File Explorer. So start dot, and I'll get File Explorer. Right? Weird. Why do I want File Explorer? Because I just want to right click and say open with Git Kraken, which is my favorite.
I know you like Git Kraken.
My favorite Git visualization tool.
So you hit start dot and it opens
File Explorer.
Can I show you something I just learned? By the way, maybe you know this.
No, I might not.
Go to File Explorer.
Okay, so I'm in.
I don't know. I'm totally interrupting here.
We'll see.
So if you go to pick a folder on your drive somewhere, right? Like in your PC.
Let's pick another one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe a new File Explorer.
Documents, and then we'll go to this one.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go to the top, in here where you can type in the path.
Yep.
And type CMD.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
And hit
enter.
enter.
Yep.
Huh. That's pretty
Where's
cool.
that been all my
Yeah,
guy,
I did not
the guy
know
I
about
work with
that.
showed me that the other day.
Yeah.
So just as much as you hit dot in
Yes.
one thing and open this,
Right.
now I showed you how to open.
No, that's good because how many
awesome is that? Rich,
people go
You're
and
nodding your head. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That is pretty cool.
Well,
we were talking earlier about tips and tricks. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
Yeah, have you ever installed a little Explorer shell extension that says like open
Yeah.
command prompt here?
Yeah, of course.
And what happens is because you have to do it on every machine,
Yeah.
I just stopped doing
right.
it. I just don't
so,
do it anymore.
So Ryan from work, my coworker, he showed me that.
you
if
win.
If he's in, he
That's
can
great.
gets props.
So
to
it's
him.
not gonna. I have this folder highlighted, but that wasn't the point. It's
Right.
going to the documents folder.
It's
If I
going to where
wanted-
you are. Yeah, you'd have to
So-
go in another.
So
level,
if
right.
I'm in
Yep.
Visual Studio 2017, I'm in the folder. I just click here. I type command.
Yeah. How awesome is that, right?
Yeah.
I could use that about 1 billion times in my life.
Is that just Windows 10?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But I only use Windows 10.
No,
or
I understand,
server, right?
because we didn't used to have this until Windows 10. We didn't have where I could do this. I'm highlighting a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna hit
yeah,
Control
yeah,
C, then I'm gonna hit Control V.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, where has that been, right? And now you know what we're not using on this show is we're not using the new Windows terminal that's now open source and ready for us to start playing.
I haven't tried that.
I
yet.
haven't tried it
Ah.
either. That will be a show.
I think I might have tried it when
That'll
it was
be
in
a show.
beta or something, but I'm not. Yeah. That's.
I'm positive that'll be a fun show.
All right. So
So
anyway,
if
here
you're,
we are.
wait. Since we mentioned it, if you're adventurous and want to try it, it is in the Windows Store now. So you can
that's
go
right.
to the Windows Store, download the terminal.
Okay.
I've been playing around with it on. I don't have it on this machine. I have it on my main machine, and I like it. It's pretty neat because you got multiple tabs open.
And will it take? I forget because it's been a while since I've seen these demos. If I type CMD or Windows Start, and CMD, will it become my command, or do I have to use a different command to open up that command?
I have not tried that
I don't
yet. It's a good
remember yet.
question.
We're gonna
Yeah.
answer
I
that
think
on
at
the
this
Yeah, we'll
point,
find that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I remember when it first went open source. I'm pretty sure, and I'm if I'm wrong, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm pretty sure it was our good friend Oren Novotny that said, "Why don't we have a daily build of this source?" And so for the first couple months, there was this place you could go to pick up the build that was being built. I'm pretty sure with Azure Dev Ops, and now it's in the store. So and I think that nightly build is still out there.
Yeah.
All community driven. The
Yep.
community just got up and said, "Why don't we have nightlies of this?"
That's it.
So
right.
So what we haven't done yet is we haven't started a new project. So here I am. I when you start Visual Studio and for the 10,000th time, do you ever get to the point where you say, "Man, it's about time that I actually customize this thing"? So I no longer see that start page. I am an empty environment kind of person.
Wait, the new
Yeah.
Start environment.
I bailed on it and I said,
Everybody, but you liked it.
I do like it. I do think it's really good.
But
It's
God.
just that eventually I get, so let's see, can I say stats? Here it is, file. And here's what I love about, I just went up to this search bar.
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly where the feature was. I don't know exactly where it is, but I wanted to find it. And so it looks like I can activate the start window. This is what most of us see.
Yeah. How
There
about
comes
that?
a point where I'm like, that's it. I'm done. So I go into settings.
Okay.
And
And then what are you gonna do? File new? So what are we
I'm
doing
just
next?
gonna file a new project. So we're gonna create a new project. It's gonna be.
So all the work that those people, the good people that
they
work
do a
at
great job.
Microsoft,
They're awesome.
You basically are just
They're amazing.
throwing them
I
under
think-
the.
No, I think it's awesome. I think the new
I'm just kidding.
start page that it's clone centric. Like,
Yeah.
come on, you're not creating a new project. You're getting your source code
Right.
from a repository.
Right.
That's the way we're working. And
Yeah.
if you're not working that way at work, you're going to be pretty soon, or well, I don't know. I mean,
so,
it's getting
yeah,
here we are.
I don't want to take you too far.
I want an
off, yeah.
ASP.NET Core application. You can see that I already. Oh darn! I think we just froze again. Right there on
no,
that
you
one.
are frozen again.
Yeah, that's okay. It'll be right back. So, I changed my projects and solutions default location
Yeah.
because I hate it being in users.
Yeah. I don't
Now-
like it, yeah.
It turns out if your enterprise really puts that roaming user stuff in place, then it actually kind of is nice. But I don't
Yeah.
see it work everywhere quite right, and I don't know why that is. I don't know who to blame.
We have some
for
of that stuff in place where I can log in, different machines, and then you're right. Then all that user
Yeah.
profile stuff goes with you.
And you might have like an H drive, and I'm just picking that.
Well, we have all kinds of stuff. But yeah, but see, those travel with me anyway. Also, like
well,
whatever.
those travel, but if the org actually goes ahead and they make it so that your documents folder is in that roaming place too,
That's what.
then
yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
nice.
It's kind of nice,
But
you know. Okay.
The problem is sometimes that's hard to get working. So
We're back.
I set it to source, and I don't know if you know how to do that. How to say that I want my location to be source, but we're not going to worry about it.
How do you? Oh, I thought that was a. I thought you were fishing.
Well,
for,
I'm on a modal dialogue.
Okay.
Actually, maybe it's not modal. Yeah,
It's modal.
it looks pretty modal.
Stay with this. Yeah.
So we're going to call the project PDN Razor Pages. Now let me ask you, if I do nothing else right now, I'm going to get a folder called PDN Razor Pages, and then another folder for the project called that, and then I think even one more folder. It becomes kind of
well, you've got
crazy.
the solution folder,
right? So I wonder, do you like this, or would you like? Are you kind of like this, where you say, no, the first project I'm working on is the web project, but it's in the PDN Razor Pages.
That's
solution.
what I do,
and I don't think very many people. We don't get the opportunity to think about this very often.
This is what I do because I'm usually going to have a second project that might be called, well, backend or data. Yeah, right. All those
models.
This is exactly. I don't like if this is. Exactly
that's why I wanted to ask you.
No, and that's exactly what I do.
And part of why I think you're a great person to ask about it is you have Andy's famous for the end-to-end patterns course, which it's very practical. It's about here's what you should really do, because it saved us a lot of time. Our team's really productive. It's super popular when you do it here at Philly.net or anywhere. So. Not that you're not selling anything, so it's not really shilling, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say create. I like this pattern too. I was curious what you'd say about it.
I'm glad you went for that. Yeah.
And then we're going to do Razor Pages, and we're going to stick with ASP.NET Core 2.2.
Okay.
A couple things that will change later. Not going to touch authentication for now. That will be important later. Definitely want to work with Rich, and his Azure expertise to learn how we can have the administrators of the website log in at first and do administrative tasks, and then maybe in the future, meetup attendees could log in and get stuff done. But that would come. That would be an approach.
Yep.
We'll get to that. Okay, so no authentication for now, and I'm just going to click create, and it's going to create the project, and we're not really going to do much more except try and see if we can get it built in Azure Dev Ops. So. What do I end up with here? I end up with a Razor Pages solution that it's probably already finished restoring from NuGet because Visual Studio will do that. We could do the same demo from command line using the .NET New CLI and Visual Studio Code. And some people would even prefer that because then you could build the solution file first and add projects to it and set the directory structure exactly how you want it.
Well, you could do that.
You could do that after the fact.
No,
yeah.
I mean you could do that now, right?
Well,
why couldn't you make the directory structure?
Right, I could go. There's a lot of things I could do right now. I could go out, and in fact, you're going to find that I probably do want to do this at some point. Is to me in a project, if this folder represents the GitHub view of the world, then to me, this stuff really belongs in a source folder. Right, the solution file and the project belong in there. And if we go surfing a lot of open source projects, you see source, docs, tests, samples.
Sure. Yep.
We're not going to touch that today. And that's the nice thing is in the future when we say, hey, our project's not really easy to contribute to. Let's work on that. We can deal with it. In the previous version of this, I tried dealing with it up front, and then we beat our heads against the wall in Azure Dev Ops for a bit. So I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay. So. I've got a project. It's going to work. IS Express, run it.
It's going to work.
The project and solutions pass. Let's see while it's building. Let's try projects. Change the default project save location. So I typed project.
Oh, that's what you were talking about, yeah.
And it came up right there. Because I don't remember where these things are in menus.
But you don't have to remember.
There's too much. Yeah, there's too much.
You don't have to remember.
So I click, and here I am.
Did you use Control Q?
I didn't use Control Q, but it's the same thing.
Yes.
And I changed this.
Yeah.
I leave this stuff alone, but I change this.
Most people don't change it.
Right.
Wait, and most people, every time they create a new project, they go in and they move the project to a different place.
Yeah, they say.
But it's these little things, it's like death by a thousand cuts when you don't do these things. It's a good tip.
Yeah, there's another one that I don't think we are using. I may not find it. It's the one that says enable preview. Not in the .NET Core one. It's
preview for
preview SDKs.
Oh.
So generally speaking, when you see people demonstrating .NET Core preview, such as .NET Core 3, they're going to open up Visual Studio Preview, which is really a good thing to do. There's nothing wrong with that. But every once in a while, you get someone who says, can I use the preview SDKs in the DA product? And you can. There's a checkbox you've got to find in here. And I found it earlier, and I'm not going to bother finding it again.
Yeah.
So in any case,
not relevant.
Our project's running. I'm pretty sure that it's
on a different screen.
Let's see. Is it on a different screen already? Maybe it opened up in Chrome. Yeah, here it is. It opened up in Chrome.
Man, you just made that?
Yeah.
That is nice.
Well, I mean, it's found project. So it's, if I would have been, if I had like the Philly.net Liberty Bill ready, then it would.
I
really
gotta
be
say
ready to
though,
ship.
I mean, and it's funny how like the little things, but I was getting tired of seeing that old 3-box
with all
ASP.NET.
And it was all informational.
It was all informational. It was
Yeah.
actually like a cool idea in the beginning,
Right?
But it's just like simpler. It's
a
cleaner.
lot simpler, and if I click here, then I think you go straight to the documentation, which is kind of nice. So
all right,
everybody's
what's next?
Everybody's happy. So we've done that. We don't really need that anymore. But what we do need to do,
so we can go start writing code now.
What we should do?
No, isn't that what we should do? Start writing code.
And you.
I want to write code.
We want this thing to build and deploy to Azure
now.
Yes, right now. Because if we don't do it now, this is my philosophy: is if we don't do it now, then 2 months from now, when the project has become complicated, we're not gonna be able to figure out how to do it. Or I don't have time to do that right now. Let's add another feature. So let's just do it now.
Or right click, deploy to Azure.
Well, right. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna click right here and we're gonna say publish,
which is great.
And it works.
Don't get me wrong, it worked. It's awesome.
It's terrible. I'm sorry, it is not awesome. No, because obviously I was playing the.
When you want to play
that, when I was playing
the foil, the contrarian,
whatever it is,
the devil's advocate.
No, it's actually it's the other one where I'm playing the naive, whatever.
Yeah, I understand.
But this is the way to do it.
Now this is actually kind of cool. Sure, I could from right here create a new Azure App Service on Linux. That's great. It's not going to get me CI/CD though.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep right-clicking publish.
Right.
And
they're really pushing. Well, they're really pushing the Linux.
Yeah. Well, look.
Yep.
There's
when you go to create app services in the portal, it defaults to Linux. Mm-hmm. Well, app service plans.
Yeah. Yep.
Defaults to Linux.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
The guys at Linux must be making a lot of money.
Yeah. Tell me Linux is not. I mean, look, .NET Core supports Linux. The future of .NET is cross-platform. Mm-hmm. There's a good argument to be said that is our future, and we should all probably be tinkering in Linux servers and SSH and learning all that terminology now.
Sure. Absolutely.
Which is stuff we played around with that I can't wait to bring to the show. SSH right here from Windows.
Wow.
Learning WSL, stuff like that. So, all right. So here we go. So what do I need to do next? Well, for one thing, this isn't in GitHub. So it's great that I have this local project. But
wait. We're not seeing you're locked up again.
Oh, I'm locked again? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm watching this and I'm like, wait, what are you doing?
So in GitHub, we just have our 3 files. We know our project works. Let's get it committed. Let's get it pushed up to GitHub and see if we can and get it built quickly. So when we come back here, we're going to see, here's where I'm kind of weird, right? Am I capable of doing a git status? Sure. Yeah, I can do this. I can do this all day long. And I can add, I could even do the famous git add dot. I can do it. But I'm kind of one of those people that says, I want to know what I committed, and I'm willing to look at this visually.
Yeah,
So I go into my favorite tool. This is just my favorite tool. I know you can do it in Visual Studio. And I walk right out of Visual Studio.
Yeah,
I know.
You were in there. How many clicks do you need, right? Like,
well,
why not? Can you just look at this, for example?
And
Team
then
Explorer.
I go, okay, now.
Just go to hang on. You don't need any of this. Wait. No, because you're doing it wrong. Can I show you something?
No, I understand.
Go back to Solution Explorer.
I could go to change.
No. You're doing it wrong. Go back to Solution. You're here. Okay. Yeah, I'm pointing to Chris's. Click on this thing right here. It says 53 changes. Click that little button there.
Yeah.
And it takes you right in there.
Yeah.
And all you got to do.
Yeah, I don't like this.
What's that thing at the top?
See, it's already bothering you.
No, this is so clean. This is so easy.
It's wonderful. So I love the view in here because this is a real representation. I love that representation of the commit graph.
Are you because you're with me, or you're with that?
So I'm laughing because my workload is to go out into Visual Studio. Like if I'm using full on Visual Studio, I'll go out the code.
Flip over to code to look at things
and do the command line from there.
From the terminal in code.
Yeah.
Not the terminal in the terminal.
No. Although I am starting to, now that Windows Terminal is there, I'm starting to play with that.
Listen, I feel like we should all be good at the command line version of things, and I'm lacking in that.
I think you
right?
almost have to.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the tooling is good enough. Like for 90% of the times, I just stay in there and right click and do this or whatever.
It's all right.
You have to go with what you feel you're most productive in.
Yeah.
I think it's an easier story. Let me just say this. I'm going to get kicked off.
No, it's fine.
But
I think it's great having Andy
if we're
here,
trying to show .NET developers the
Right.
way to do this, most of them I think are going to be more comfortable in they've been using Team Explorer or they're using Solution, and they like Visual Studio is that central hub for everything, right?
I know. And I'm hoping that if I never show them the Visual Studio stuff, then they won't know it's there, and then they start learning how Git really works because they have this more visual tool that makes them go, oh, wow, I didn't realize that Git is really just this graph with pointers to it. I thought it was like various branches, and people get really confused about how Git works.
Have you heard of like abstractions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you write?
I think it's over abstracted. I think it's over abstracted.
But I don't write in machine language.
No, I know, but I think it's over abstracted.
Keep going. It's great.
I just think it's over. That's the only reason why I don't do it. Is I just think for me, and I have nothing against the people who are working super hard. Because hey, Team Explorer support for Git was not good a few versions ago.
No question.
And it is way better now.
They made it pretty.
In fact, it's good enough to just use.
All right.
So, but I like saying unfortunately I'm running into a little bit of.
Are you locked again? No.
No, I just need to see this. Is okay. So what? Oh yeah, this makes sense. These look like the files that I expect to see here. Instead of, I'm not seeing any crud. This is exactly what I want. So
hopefully your git ignore is helping.
The git ignore should be doing the job. So I stage instead of hitting git add dot. I hit stage. I get this visual look. Sure, I could come here and do the same thing. I can say git status, and if I don't have git kraken on a machine, I can live in here. I'm fine. I can live in here just fine. But instead, I wanted everyone to see that I actually do this. I really do. Is I jump in here, and then oddly enough, you're gonna watch where I jump back to command line and probably laugh. This is just my standard workflow. Is initial project, initial web project, right? Initial web project, and then let's just say yes support. No authentication. I don't know why I'm writing a good commit message, except that I got in the habit of writing complete commit messages.
Write good commit messages.
It's a habit that I got into a long time ago.
And you don't in these demos. People
think like, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
And
it takes 2 seconds to do that.
Razor pages.
And you know what? If people want to use this open source and people want to follow, it's as good.
And so what I love about this is right now I'm seeing, without a doubt, that my Git repository, my local Git repository is here, one commit ahead of what's up on GitHub. I don't know anything else that visualizes this as quickly as well.
Well, VS Code maybe has an extension for that, or is that built in?
It's built into Visual Studio
does it.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where's the graph?
There's a history thing in here with
the graph.
but
is it the same kind of?
I'm pretty sure, except that now I got to figure it out. So it's branches, and then I think if I say history, then you get this.
Okay.
But boy, all those clicks. I heard somebody complaining about clicks earlier, and here it just happens. It just happens as I work, right? So now watch this. This is gonna make you laugh. I could push from within Git Kraken, and there's no reason that I couldn't just come over here and say push.
Because you're in there.
Yeah, I know, but I'm in the habit of coming out here.
So you've gone Visual Studio.
Yeah.
And Git Kraken.
I use these in tandem. Command line and Git Kraken are my Git tools, and I use them in tandem. Git Kraken is for visualization.
Excuse me, I knocked over my water. I don't know. That seems overcomplicated to me. But the moral of this whole thing is
you can do any of these that you want.
Ways
you can live at command line. You can live in a tool like GitHub Desktop or Git Kraken or Tower or SourceTree or the Visual Studio Code extensions, because there's a few, or Visual Studio's Team Explorer, and they all work together seamlessly, and it's beautiful.
You could do it the right way, which is my way, right? Or you could do it any other way.
Well, let's see what happens. I've pushed now. I pushed out at command line. Git Kraken is updated and showing me that master is in sync in both places, pointing to the same commit with one ancestor.
Okay.
I go out to Git. I just want to see. Come out here.
Well, I want to get to the builds though.
It kind of looks like, I don't know, local history. So how do I see the remote history? I'm just not sure. It doesn't mean you can't do it. I'm just not sure how to do it.
Okay.
Like, where's the remote master? How do I know that I pushed it? and that's not a complaint. I just don't know. So we're
You
up
don't
in
know that
GitHub
you
now.
pushed it.
I don't know from Visual Studio. I have
Visual Studio, you can tell if you pushed.
Well, I couldn't from that little interface. I couldn't. Where in Git Kraken here, I can see that they're both in sync.
Well, if you look at,
and sure, I could do it. I can also do this too. I can do Git status and say
but
your
you
branch
said
is
you
up to
couldn't
date with
find it in
master.
Visual Studio.
I couldn't find
show
it.
you where in
Okay.
Visual Studio.
Yeah.
At the bottom, right? No, you don't even need Team Explorer. Right at the
Right.
bottom, and
So
I
you're saying,
people can't see what I'm
looking
pointing
over
to.
here,
Yeah, you see like zeros.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I guess I never
Can you
looked
circle
down
that with
there.
your mouse? Because I don't think is your mouse going up on
It's
the.
not, and there is a way to circle stuff that I don't know.
Yeah, so people aren't seeing. I wish I could like point to
It's
this. Wait, yeah.
It's over there.
Oh, my arm
and
goes
it's-
away. Yeah.
Underneath the menus where it says PD and Razor pages, and
Yeah.
we'll have to figure out that circling stuff.
That's
a
I
good
think it would be
point.
helpful on it
Yeah.
on an
So I'm gonna
so
refresh here.
So how do we make a build?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do right now.
Right.
So refresh here. We're here. So let me head over to Azure DevOps, right? I've got a bunch of projects here already, so let's talk about
We're
that
not
real
seeing
quick.
your screen.
Oh, okay, yeah, it didn't.
I'll try to
refresh.
be
So it'll
on
refresh.
police on that.
I wonder if it's changing processes. Is that what the issue is?
If you stayed in Visual Studio,
No, because I went out to get Kraken and I went out.
no, you said maybe it's changed. And I'm joking that you
Yeah.
should stay in Visual Studio. I'm
Yeah.
trying to use that as an excuse.
I never joke about Git.
Oh, you need a T-shirt that says that.
That's actually.
I
not a
never
bad
joke
idea.
about Git.
Yeah.
Chris Gomez.
So, I'm not gonna actually create a project because I've already got one ready to go. But this is what we were talking about. How it kind of feels like if I wanted to say this is the new website build, that private's checked by default. Not that I couldn't make it public. I could. And if you make it public, then you have to use Git. Down here, you can say which version control you want. In Azure DevOps, your project can either be Git or TFVC. But no, we're not using the Azure repos portion anyway, so it wouldn't matter what I picked here. We're also currently not using the Azure boards portion, so the work item process isn't important tonight. That might change in the future. We might decide we want to use those
come
features.
in and do that,
No,
right?
I definitely want
So
to.
you keep it
explore
on
them.
Agile, right? Because that's the good template to use anyway, right?
Well, where's the waterfall template? I'm looking.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Right.
We'll have to get Microsoft on that one. Get a waterfall, or Agile fall.
Agile fall.
So I already have this Razor Pages project created, and the reason why I did this because I think this should all work right. Is I think it's already connected to Azure, so I don't have to sit here and put in credentials. And
But
stuff.
we should talk about that. We should show people that,
because then Rich will say, "Oh my gosh, I gotta get this screen off of there."
Yeah, I got you.
There's a great product which I actually think I don't know if I have it installed on here, called Azure Mask. That
yeah.
that
No, you know what? So I tried getting Azure Mask. We were talking about this
Yeah.
recently, and it's a Chrome plugin,
Yeah.
but it's like you can't get it through the Chrome store.
Oh really?
You have to go and sort of like get the code and enable it yourself. If you go to the Chrome store, it's not official.
So I'm kind of a Firefox user, so why don't I just do this right now? Add it to Firefox.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know
I'm gonna
why
add
it's
it.
not a Chrome, or at least it wasn't working for me.
So there it is. Azure Mask is on.
Yeah.
So first thing you notice, the Azure Mask is on. My email address went away. So it's doing its thing. So I don't that doesn't help me for Azure DevOps. But so anyways, we're here in Azure DevOps. We've already talked tonight about how we're not using boards, we're not using repos, we're using pipelines. And there's two types. We want to build pipe. You wanted to see a build. So let's go with, I scrolled to pipelines here on the left-hand side. And I'm going to pick builds, which is just over Andy's head. No, I don't have any build pipelines. Okay, fine.
What do you mean it's over my head? You don't think I can understand this?
Yeah.
stuff?
It's just over hit on the screen.
Just over my head.
And then, so where's your code?
You want me to move a little bit?
Where's your code? Now, I've already linked up GitHub here, so it's not even going to ask me. What it will do for you at that point is it'll ask you to log into GitHub, and then you have to grant permission to Azure Pipelines.
That's what you meant by LinkedIn. You've already linked it up. Okay.
You have to grant permission to Azure Pipelines, as far as GitHub's concerned, to be able to look at your repos. And it's a pretty limited set of permissions.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's you got to you should have that control.
Yeah.
So here's the repository I'm interested in, and when I select it, oh,
that's interesting.
Is it asking me? Yeah. Okay.
I moved my head.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing
No, just
to
trying to
here.
get to
In
that
fact,
green button. See,
it's
approve
basically saying,
blocking the-
who do you want me to have access to? And it's like, well, I want you to have access to this. So what happened now is Azure DevOps fired me off to GitHub to approve this link. But, oh, it is asking me to sign in. All right. So Rich will change our screen here because I'm going to put in my password. And
Hang on.
I'm not doing it yet. Oh, wait.
There we go. Just
It
me.
seemed to have done it.
Oh, so
You
you've
know your
already.
password. Yeah,
I guess I'm signed in.
Yeah.
I guess I'm signed in.
Yeah.
I tried doing this beforehand and clicking all those
Sure.
don't ask me again boxes.
Yep.
It looks like it kind of.
Those
works
don't
shorter.
ask me again buttons that always ask you
Yeah,
again.
it's going to ask me again anyway. So there's a default here that says configure your pipeline. Now we are ASP.NET Core. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what happens is you get this YAML.
Yeah, now, so what if, just for kicks, you cannot use YAML. You know that, right?
Well, in the build pipeline, is that true?
In the
'Cause
build
I haven't
pipeline,
figured that
it
out.
is true.
Okay.
You have to go back a step, I think, and you have to say,
You-
there's this little button.
Where it said use the classic editor?
Yes.
That's the one.
Okay, well,
Yes.
let's
Now,
try
I'm
it.
not saying we should do that, but it's good to show it, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think you can go back to that first screen. So
You
you're trying to
can't
do
go
that
back.
earlier this week with one of my colleagues.
Once
Well,
you're past it, you
I've
can't
just
go
done
back.
it. So let's.
You can create another
so
build
you-
later, and we
well,
can
that-
show that.
Well, yeah, just close out of here.
Okay. I was going to say.
Well, but then he's got to connect the thing again. I don't know.
No, I don't think I would. I think
No,
it would
you
all
won't.
work.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
we're. I'm
look,
sorry.
I'm already
no,
back-
hang on. I'm watching the screen.
That's right. Because
It's
we're
not
frozen.
moving because we're
That's right.
frozen. I'm thinking like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I wonder what that is.
You need one of these babies.
I don't know. Maybe there's something about my machine. Doesn't work on my machine.
Are you run? I know this is silly, but like, there's like modes, like you have it on battery saver mode or something weird like that. I don't think that would affect this kind of thing, but but it does seem to keep happening,
Right.
which is unfortunate.
And so we thought hardwiring it might make this better.
Yeah.
In any case, so GitHub,
Oh, so we were going back.
you don't want to do YAML.
You
wanna
wanted to
use the
go.
classic editor?
No, but I
'Cause I
wanted to
don't
show
care.
the checkbox.
Yeah.
It's in the first screen.
Yeah.
It was
You're
basically
already past it.
It was It was here where you're creating a pipe.
Yep. And you
Yep.
say new pipeline,
Bottom.
and then scroll down to the bottom. It's
I
behind my
can't-
head.
Hang on.
See that? Use
Yeah,
the
right above
classic
Andy's
editor.
head there.
Right above my head. Oh, what did you do? Oh, you moved the. Yeah. See this little button right there.
Yeah, use the classic editor.
Use the
Yep.
classic editor. You can get to that.
Yep.
It's just that a lot of where things are going is people want to do that as declaration as code.
Totally.
Now you can check that in as part of. I think we did this when we tried the
We
first
did.
time around. We checked in the YAML file.
It will not automatically check it in, but it says to you, like it creates it for you, and then it wants to put it into your code. For
Yes.
you, which is
It
cool.
wants. Yep,
It wants
exactly.
to do that for you. Now, I hope we come on and talk about YAML sometimes. And it's cool. It's complicated. I find it.
Yeah, I'm not really
Yeah.
much of an expert at this point.
Yeah.
I think part of it is it's supposed to be so it removes even some of the extra punctuation of JSON.
Yep.
And things like both indentation and symbols mean things like
Yep.
dashes and if you've
Sure.
indented or not. That means whether you are a sub.
Well, we'll show it in a second.
Yeah, we're
You're
gonna find
see
out.
the YAML,
Although,
right?
but I'm not an expert. So back on my screen here, I'm picking ASP.NET Core, and what it's going to do is it's going to say, well, here's a very basic ASP.NET Core pipeline, and notice that Azure Dev Ops by default puts you on a Ubuntu image,
Yeah. How about that?
which is pretty interesting, right? And then I think these build configuration variables are already set right here.
Mhm.
It's saying, hey, we're going to do release.
Yep.
I think you could pull this variable out and declare it somewhere else though, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I just say save and run, now it wants to commit Azure Pipelines.yaml to my repository.
That's what we were just talking about,
Yeah.
right? It's going to take that YAML file that it gave you and said, well, the whole point of having this YAML file is to have it in your repo.
Yep.
So I
it's saying
love that step is just
set up CI,
there, you know.
which CI is build,
right.
CD is release. So commit directly to the master branch. I could even start a pull request if I wanted. Don't need to do that tonight. Let's save it. So not only is it going to commit that YAML, which in a second we'll head back over to GitHub, it's fired up and looking for an agent
Mhm.
to get to work. So now while we're waiting for that, let's run back here, and we are going to see, there it is.
Yeah.
Through Azure Dev Ops.
Right. Or is it right?
There's the YAML.
There's the YAML. Right.
So let's run back to where the little washing machine symbol is turning, and jobs initialized, code's checked out, it's building, it's released, it's building, it's doing a .NET build release, and then in a second it's going to say, yeah, that was great, everything's awesome. Well, first it's going to restore the packages, which I think there's a step where we can take packages that it restores time and time again and put those into Azure Artifact so that it doesn't have to download them time and time and time again. But as of right now, we're just going to let it restore. I mean, I guess it's restoring. This is like a .NET restore for the first time with your project. As a developer, you do this once. This is happening every build, which is okay. Not the end of the world.
No, true.
And it has to happen because they tear down the environment.
Yep.
Each
Exactly.
time, right? Because it's in the cloud. You're not on your own build server.
Yep.
Where it can keep resources around. It's, you know what I find that it's surprising how fast some of this stuff can go, right? Like when we get into deployments, and we're spending a lot of time with this in my office. We're running these deployments over and over again, and we're using ARM templates, which we're talking about here, and so it's firing up new app service plans, new app service, and sometimes you say to yourself, oh god, this build takes this deployment's taking a minute. It's building all these things, like it's pretty fast.
So the build finished, and I'm all green, but the problem now is that we have a build, but we didn't put the code anywhere. So if I understand correctly,
what do you mean we didn't put the code anywhere?
Well, the code, we got an agent.
Yeah.
Which is just like a machine, that it's an Ubuntu machine.
Okay.
It had the .NET SDK on it that we required. And we can go through these logs by checking on them, and we can watch all these things happen.
Sure.
Check the code out. All right. And then it built it, and it built it using Microsoft Build Engine here for .NET Core, and at some point we see that it's using .NET Core 2 too. But unfortunately, what happened is after the build finished, it said, yeah, great, I built the code, and now I'm going to tear down the environment, and there it goes.
I see what you're saying.
So we don't
You're talking about the output of
we
the
don't
build.
have the output. We lost it. It came and it went. It was done. It did it.
Right.
It's just that we don't have it.
Right.
So that's where I wonder if we should edit the YAML or go back to the classic editor. Would that help?
No, edit the YAML.
Just edit the YAML?
Edit the YAML.
Okay, good.
I mean, again,
as long as I have an expert here on the YAML.
So again, I think it's maybe worth explaining. One of the reasons why it's great to have the YAML, Rich, you were alluding to this earlier, right? The YAML becomes source code.
Yes.
Okay. So now we can get to a place where we're editing the YAML on our machine. Okay. Chris edits the YAML, and what does he do? He sends it to me for a code review, because it's code, text, whatever. I review it, and I say, this is great. You're Chris, of course it's great. This is great. So now we've got a code review. I'm happy about that, right? Then we check it in, it's committed, it's saved, right? Eventually we're going to get to the point where we have changes where our application gets more complicated and our build gets more complicated, right? Let's say day 2, you had this big feature and it needs something else as part of the build. And I go, but we got a bug in build in the old stuff, right? So I want to get the old code. Well, it's going to fail when I try to build it. If my build information was on the server, my build definition, my code might not build with that build, right? Instead, the build definition stays with the code. So when I try to build yesterday's code, it has yesterday's build information in it. Sure. I hope I'm using the right words and explaining that right.
Well, it could be maybe you've changed SDKs.
Maybe I've changed SDKs.
And 6 months from now, when you have to go back and hotfix that version, that specific version, you need the way you built it.
That's what I'm talking about. Yep. And if we get to the same place for releases as well, which can get kind of nuts.
I've heard stories about teams, and if this especially happens in game development, but it happened commonly. But there are famous stories about games that we grew up with that were released by the publisher. We could talk about, like, say, SimCity or something. And they got it working, and everything on their build server. Which remember, in those days, that build server would have been a golden server.
One
It
guy
wouldn't,
had
yeah.
access to it, right?
And this box was special. Like we knew that this box could build Team City, and I have heard many a story of when an important SimCity.
I thought you said Team
Or let's
City.
pick a game from the past, Ultima 3 or something. Well, I'm talking my youth, right?
Right.
There were stories of development teams that would take that build server and they would like bubble wrap it and put it in a warehouse and mark it because they knew someday they might have to drag that thing back out and build a project that they had no idea how to build anymore. And their hardware, because everything was so tied, it wasn't like now so much is abstracted here that your point is code is configuration. That's almost like build instructions is configuration.
Yeah.
And the promise to you from these build agents, whether you're using TeamCity, Jenkins, or Azure DevOps or any other tool, is we will interpret that code the way we interpreted it the last time.
Exactly. That's what we want.
The way they needed that to work is they actually took the box and they put a gold star on it and like this is how you build Ultima online, right? Right. So
but we're also like, don't forget that whole thing about code review.
Yeah.
I can make sure that you're not doing something you shouldn't do. You might have a manager that needs to approve. Who knows what your process is.
Instead of that build server, I changed a setting. Which one? I don't know. It works now though.
Right.
What do you mean it works now? We need to build another build server. Well, maybe you should start comparing the settings. You never get it right. You never get it right.
Hard.
So here we are. Now, one of the things about this YAML that was a little frustrating for us previously is that the steps just say, hey, just go ahead and build this thing, but it doesn't put it anywhere. There's no task to go drop it somewhere, right? To publish the artifact. Now, on the right-hand side of our editor, we do have tasks. And if I put my cursor here on line 18 and I click on .NET Core and I pick a task, and let me just pick, just for the heck of it, I'm just going to pick publish. And now I even get a little bit of help here. Like, well, what do you want to do? And it's, I want to publish this web project, right? And I honestly don't know if I really need to put any arguments or anything here. And I say add. What ends up happening is you get a little YAML here to describe the task.
Right.
So now the steps part of the YAML is saying do this task, do this task, do this task. What I'm not sure about is once I start using tasks, I don't know if that YAML still works.
I think it does. I think it's confusing because the first part isn't called a task. Well, I think what you're saying is like line 16 doesn't say task, right? But line 19 does. But clearly what's on line 16 is some kind of task.
Right.
But
now the problem is I'm not so sure about these inputs either because the command says publish, that's fine. I don't know what I want.
I think you need to do publish artifacts or something like that, right?
That's for a drop.
Yeah, for drop.
You need to do
one thing that we turn into a web app.
Yeah, that's the one thing we didn't, and I did not say that very clearly. We've built the code.
Right.
We need to do a .NET publish so that way we get a version of code that we could X-copy somewhere. Like if these were all our servers, we could just pick it up, Scott Hanselman loves to do this demo, put it on a USB drive, walk over to the server. We need to do that part here.
Yeah.
So I still need publish, and I'm not sure if I need to do anything else except that there was. Let me go back.
No, I think that's it.
The problem is I need to put the drop somewhere, right? And where's it? I don't
know because I think that's the next part. And then you need to take. I think there's another. I could be wrong here. I thought there's another task.
There is another task
that takes the output of the publish and puts it in the drop.
In fact, let's search for them because I can do that. So let's say publish.
You're locked again.
Build. So publish build artifacts is the task that I want, which I have searching for right there. So it'll come up in a second.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Rich. There. So, anyways, here's the full list of tasks. I came over and I just typed publish and let's say publish build just so I can narrow it down. Publish build artifacts is one that we can use here. And it says, well, what do I want to publish? I want to publish whatever's at this location. See, this is why I think we didn't say to build this here. What do you want to call the artifact? Drop is probably fine. And then where do you want to publish it to? I think Azure Pipelines is okay. So if I say add, I get a task that says publish it to wherever this place is, or take it from wherever this place is.
Right.
I know it says path to publish, but it really is like path to publish from. It's fine. What do you want to call it? It needs a name. I could call it Eat It Joe's. It doesn't matter. And then
drop seems to be the standard. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure if by default this pushes to here. We can find out.
Now you have publish location container. Is that because that's where you said you wanted it to be?
Here, let me show you the other option.
You said Azure was the choice.
Azure Pipelines, because the other option was a file share.
Yeah,
and then you got to put a path.
No, you don't want to do file share, right? So I think that's what container means.
That's just what this means. I'm going to say add so we can see it again.
Yep.
And
But are we doing Linux?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
but that's maybe okay. So the question is, I think you were saying this earlier, is the first step you just added, does that need something that says where to leave it?
Right. And so there's other parameters. You can see that they're coming up in IntelliSense here. So this task has other
IntelliSense in the browser, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Pretty cool. So I believe that, and unfortunately, I don't know what all these things are, but you can modify the task this way, and they probably were over on the right side when we were setting this. So I don't know if we have to use publish arguments to basically say. So what this task is doing is it's running .NET publish, just like you were from the command line.
Yeah.
And it might be, although I don't know
think it puts it in the build location, not the artifact location, is what I kind of remember. But I think we should run the thing.
Just run it and see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Okay, so we got to come out of here with a drop. And what are we doing here? Now this commit message isn't really telling me what happened. So what we did is we added a publish, and Andy loves this because I'm saying what happened in the history.
That's awesome, right?
Add publish task, add .NET publish task, and publish and create drop. Let's do that. Create drop. So that's done, and then we run it. It's queuing up a build, and it's off to work. So, when there's a way when this is done that we can view. In fact, if I go back to the previous build while that's building, so this was a previous build that we did. The CI build started and I did the manual build at the same time. So in any case, doesn't matter. If I go back to this previous build, can't I view the folder and see what was in there?
Well, it would be in the top right. You're talking about the artifacts of it?
Yeah, the artifacts.
Yeah, so it would be at the top there, but you don't see it, and that's because you probably didn't
make any. Okay.
You didn't make any, or you didn't put it in output. So that where it says all logs, on that previous screen, it would say something about like view artifacts. I think it says artifacts or something like that. If there are artifacts.
All right.
I believe that's why you don't see that there.
So this one's in the middle of running.
And you're locked because I'm not seeing what's.
Yeah, sorry, that's true. I'm gonna actually get rid of this build. We don't need it. We can cancel. Because we don't really need that build. We need the one that's currently going. It's in the middle of the. It looks like it finished, but now it succeeded with a warning. So that build finished. We can see our new tasks here. We have our .NET build release step. We have our .NET Core CLI, which we could rename. We could have renamed this so it would be a little more clear what it's doing.
What's cool is they're all in one YAML file.
Yeah.
But here you're seeing them as individual items.
So it complained here that home VSTS work is empty.
And we know A means artifact staging directory.
It said it was
A
empty.
is shorthand.
So that kind of tells me that
that's
the publish
source,
step didn't
A
put
is
it.
artifacts and B is build, I believe.
So the publish step didn't put the code here.
Right. Exactly.
And that's kind of what I was concerned about.
Yep, you were right.
Which I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if I was right. That wasn't a bit. That wasn't like
to Andy's point, right? It's not artifact staging. We need to make it a build.
Well,
Well,
I
you could
think
either
it's-
tell it to go to there, or you could tell the publish to put it in the artifact
Yeah.
staging directory.
So, and I
Yeah.
have a cheat sheet here that
Yep.
where I can say what I'm really doing is I'm saying .NET publish, but see now where did this build? Oh
I
yeah,
think
it's
That's
it's
in the
saying do the
variables.
release configuration, and then this is a command -- output is where to put it, and so I'm going to use this folder because this is where it's looking for it. So why don't I put it there? See how that matches up?
Yeah.
So
It's a .NET. This is just like going to the command line and saying .NET publish configuration release, which we defined here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where build artifact staging directory is. In fact, I don't really want to know. I'll let that be a variable. And
Well, you kind of need to be a variable because it changes each time
Sure,
you do a build,
right.
right? It's Azure, right?
so I don't care. So I think this will do what we wanted. And let's fix this again. Fixed .NET publish task.
Again, I think this is so cool that you're editing it in Azure Dev Ops. You're not. You could edit it on your machine in VS Code or whatever because it's a file, right? But not only are you editing it there, but it's not just going to save it for you. It's not going to allow you to just like put it in. It wants. It's treating it as a commit.
Yep.
You know, which is
Yep,
like
it
a good
treats it as
experience,
commit.
right?
And so now it's getting ready. It's working on it, looking for an agent. An agent is ready for the job. I love how that sounds. I feel like it should play like maybe
Shield.
secret agent music.
Oh yeah.
You know, dun,
yeah, right.
dun, 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 and then they could you could hear a washing machine sound because I think this is the washing icon.
The
Our
washing.
code
Which one's
is
the washing
right here,
icon?
The,
Wait.
the little spinning.
Where you're, I can't see your mouse, right? So where
Yeah,
are you?
so the spinning blue.
Oh
thing,
yeah, it is like a little
it's
washing
washing
machine.
the
yeah.
code.
Yeah.
We're doing a little code laundering. Is legal in most states.
Code laundering.
Yeah,
Hmm.
legal in the lower 48
Code
states.
laundering.
So now this is where I think this is possible. Is these packages are getting restored on every build? They could be in Azure Artifacts, and then we cut 44 seconds out of our build here.
I've never done that.
Oh, I haven't either, but I believe it's possible.
But how do you make sure they're up to date?
I don't know, man. That's what the show is all about. But I believe that you can do this.
If you believe it, you can.
Well, not tonight.
No.
So we
So
finished through it.
Cranking through. Yep.
Publish out. Publish build artifact succeeded without the warning.
Well,
this time.
what I say on the top right. If you go back to
Oh,
where you
yeah.
just, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's okay. See,
Artifacts.
it says artifacts.
We've
now.
never gotten to that point.
Right. And
So
if you click
now-
the drop down, it
and
says
we called
drop.
it drop.
Right? Yep.
And, I
And now you can
say,
even expand
there
it
it is.
here.
Zip
Yeah,
file.
it's a zip file. It's only
Boom,
one thing in
which
it,
is
right.
great.
Yep. And
That's
you could
great.
download it if you need to.
I could.
Yep.
I
But we
could.
don't need to. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Do we have time to push it to Azure?
Yeah, man.
Nobody's ready for bed. We're ready to do it. All right.
We're
Well,
here, might as well do
anybody
it.
working tomorrow?
We want to save that
That's
little
true.
10 or 15 minutes at the end to kind of walk through a couple things, but
Okay, that's fine.
So,
I mean,
So
you're
what do you
right.
think? So you
Nobody's
want-
working tomorrow, so
well, but you
I'm
know,
okay with it. I'm okay with doing it
I think
because
we're rolling.
yeah, we've done a lot better than previous attempts here. So now here we are.
And the truth is, we've done better, but it doesn't take this long to do it. We're bantering
we
and
are.
stuff like that.
We are.
This really can be boiled down into a.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do it after this. We should do a
We
redo
do
of
speed
it.
runs. So we can
At,
time
like
ourselves.
regular. Just say, look how fast you can do.
I
this.
think
click, click.
what we
click,
do is
click.
we have the viewers do speed runs. Post your YouTube speed runs, and
Right.
whoever wins, we don't have anything for you. But in the future, it's possible, right?
We
Who
have
knows?
gratitude,
Right, we have our gratitude. So
bragging rights.
now, when you see us publish here, I think it's important to note that we're going to go make the resources in Azure to publish to. After this, I want to at least run through that you don't have to do that. Azure Dev Ops can go make the resources. As
Oh,
well.
that's not what you're gonna do.
Yeah. I don't think we have the time, and there's a specific reason why, because we need an
Okay.
ARM template,
Yeah.
and that sounds like a show on building
Well,
ARM
sure.
templates,
Yeah,
right?
that's several shows.
Yeah, so I
probably,
think
right.
in the future
Okay.
we come back and we fix the pipeline. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to make the resources in Azure, and I'm not, my Azure portal's not up because the screen's frozen again there.
Oh,
So
God.
It'll be back in a second there, but we were doing pretty good. I wonder what causes that.
He's got it pretty quick to fix, right?
Yeah, but I still want to know what causes it, because we did several shows here and never had to deal with this before.
Well, it's the first time you've been hardwired into it.
The last time it wasn't either. So it
Ew.
wasn't hardwired. But anyways.
Well, okay.
So I think I have a resource group ready to go. I do, so that's good. And it even has an app service in it, which doesn't have anything in it. I think, if I recall correctly, we're going to see the standard Hello World page that when you create an Azure app service, let's go. Fire that server up.
Come on, Azure. You got the whole cloud behind you, right?
Yeah.
All
we
we're
just want
asking
one
for is
little
one
droplet.
Right. One little drop.
Or what is a
yeah,
cloud?
well,
What is
yeah,
a piece of a
drops.
cloud?
Yeah, like a droplet.
There it is. Perfect. The service is up and running. So our little droplet is there. And this is a Linux service in a Linux app service plan. I think in the future we can talk about how I got here. So the key is that our build pipeline is not going to create or make sure that the resources are in place on Azure, because there is a whole task for that. And it's cool. It's an awesome task. So I go back to pipelines, and here's the thing, right? We were working with build pipelines before. So on the left side, the menu just above my head, we're seeing builds, releases, library, task groups, deployment groups. We've been playing in builds. Now we're going to switch over to releases. And the first thing that it's going to say is, I don't have any release pipelines yet. Well, that's true. So we're going to make a new pipeline. And it even offers to help me and says, how about an Azure App Service deployment? And I'll say, okay, sure. That sounds great, Bob. And it immediately brings up a small pipeline that has, this is an artifact, what came out of the drop, and then you can run it through multiple stages of work. And then we can even do things where, like, if this happens, go this way and send this to QA and send this over. But right now we just want to get it out to Azure. So we're going to call stage 1 here is deploy to Azure, and just so it has a nice pretty name. No other reason for that. We need to go pick the artifact. So I'm going to say add an artifact, and when I click that, our project is here, and when I do the drop down, it says yes, I want it to be the Space Shot Razor Pages project, and then it drops in with some more stuff. It's like, well, I want the latest version, and I want this source alias is what you're putting in here to use later in the pipe. But it's telling you the latest build of that particular project, publish an artifact called drop. Perfect. So let me just click that, and I don't really care about that naming.
Right.
One job with one task. Okay, so the task is deploy Azure App Service. Before we do that, I just wanted to show real quick is let's see, isn't there a create Azure resource?
Well, you use ARM. I think you Azure. I think you have
this one. This is the one you would use if you say, I'm pretty sure this is the one you would use if you say, can you just make sure the resource group is there? And you use an ARM template for that. But we're not going to be able to build an ARM template quickly tonight.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that.
Right.
But it's there.
Tune in
in the future when we get that all going.
Yeah.
So deploy Azure App Service. What type of connection? It's going to be an Azure Resource Manager. That's interesting that it's not finding my connection.
You might need to manage. You might have to log in.
Let's see if it makes me do more work. It might. Yeah, it's. Well, let's see what. In
this is a new project. Oh, you're using the same project that you were using before.
So here's where I think I'm going to end up having to log in. So we're going to say, but we'll see. We'll see. As soon as it happens, Rich is going to go ahead and jump
Just
off.
in case.
So that menu is what I'm doing is I'm picking my Azure subscription, and because I'm going to have to sign in here, even though the password is masked, it's just a good practice probably to just keep it off the screen, right?
Yep. Just in case.
So for those people that were trying to follow along, his password is A5
PASSW 0. RD.
See, that's the
You're right.
Everybody knows those.
Okay,
jokes
and so
you probably can you switch back to your
I think
screen?
we can switch back now.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we're good. I have to pick the resource group that I'm connecting to. When you create a resource manager connection, you have to not only give it your subscription, you also want to say, okay, this is the resource group we're working with. Click OK. Setting some stuff up. I'm not actually 100% sure what it's doing. I wonder if behind the scenes it's creating like a managed identity or something, but I don't know. That's fascinating to me what it's really doing.
Yeah, I mean the point of the whole thing, right, is if you just a little background, I think, right? Azure is one thing. Azure Dev Ops is another thing.
And I'm giving it permission.
And so you have they can't talk to each other. Otherwise, my Azure subscription would be accessible. I mean, who knows, right? So it's all locked down. You can't communicate between the two
unless you set something up to do that.
It's a good thing.
And you're right, Chris. It is creating an account, a service principal account in your Azure AD environment that your Azure subscription is attached to.
I totally guessed that.
It's good.
So
I'm learning so much about that stuff these days. Oh my gosh, service principals and Azure Active Directory.
What's interesting here is
are you locked again? I don't see.
I'm wondering if I should.
No, you're locked up anyway, Rich.
Okay, well that's perfect.
Good. Here's your chance. No one will know you're.
I think that I needed to start the pipeline over because it still wouldn't show that connection. It just wouldn't show it.
You had to refresh that screen.
So we'll have to.
I thought there's usually a little refresh button there.
I didn't
on
see
the
it,
subscriptions.
I didn't see it.
So there's also, and here's a tip, right? There's a difference between a subscription and a connection.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you get to the part where you have that drop down and it says which Azure subscription would you like to go to? In my case, I generally see like a few subscriptions, but I'll also see the connection. And if you just do the subscription, I think you have to authenticate each time somehow or something like that. And so you want to use those connections that you were setting up. The service connection, right?
I made this code drop again, but this time I changed the source alias because I figured we might as well name it something friendly. Code drop.
Sure. Well, that's kind of nice.
I thought that's kind of cool. And now I come back in here, and there now.
See this? So this is what I was talking about. So now you have available service connections. So you're not using a service connection.
No, it still didn't do what I wanted, huh?
Because you're not using a service connection. Doesn't he need to go over in project settings, service connections, and add? Or am I doing? Is that a more complicated way, Rich?
It depends. It depends on where the Azure what tenant.
Oh wait, there it is.
Right? If they're all in the same or not.
Oh yeah, see there it is. Yeah.
I refreshed.
Okay, so created the
I could have given that a better name. I could have named that the resource group or some resource group connection. That might have been a better name, since in Azure connection is saying go to this subscription, manage this resource group. You're right. The other option was just to give it. Just say, yeah, do whatever you want in the whole subscription, right? I could authorize that. I could do that, but I'm not going to do that. So now after all that, we need the app service name, which of course it's not going to find any. That particular resource group does not have any web app on Windows. It only has web apps on Linux. So I switched to that, and now there we go. That's the web app that was created out in Azure land, and then. This is what we learned last time. If you want to run a .NET web app in the real world, like you run it on your machine, .NET Core, command line to do that, right? There's a command line that makes that go. It's .NET and then the name of the application, right? So PDN, what is this called?
So you have to tell it to do that.
Yep.
It doesn't just know to do that.
Nope.
Okay.
Is it .NET Run or just .NET?
I thought it was I was going to say Run the first time.
Start.
Well, I don't know. What's on your cheat sheet?
Well, I thought I had it. Yeah, I know, huh?
How about that?
How about that?
We're going to find out.
It's not here, so how about that?
I'll Google it.
So,
while
we could actually figure it out. I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that pipeline, and then here's what I'm going to do. Just like a good cooking show. We've got one that works.
You can go look and see the one that works, right?
So, and it's cleverly named. And I'm just going to go ahead and double check it by going to Edit, heading out to our Deploy Azure App Service task, and it is .NET and just .NET in the DLL.
You're right.
That's it, just .NET in the DLL. So, okay, so let's go back to our pipeline, releases. What do you mean no releases?
Release means you haven't released it yet. So you have new release pipeline. You can click on that. Yep. You can name it something better, by the way. Right now it's called new release pipeline. So I find some of this naming a little confusing because just like you said, no releases. We think of the pipeline as it's a release pipeline. It's not a release of the release pipeline. And somewhere that stuff gets a little confusing.
I think it makes a little better sense when you actually see, now I'm going to kick off a release, and you'll see those releases there as you check code in, and they work their, continuous integration, they work their way through the pipeline. But
but you think of the pipeline is the definition.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say that, they don't use that word exactly like this is the definitions, and these are the releases of the definition. But you get used to it. Is the end. It's simple.
So now that I've said use the right connection, web app on Linux, correct app service name, good startup command, is it just create release? Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah, you saved it. So.
Yep. Now there's a tricky part here, by the way. I want to look at your screen because I can't see that far. So what everyone does, it says click on a stage, right? Everyone thinks you got to click on the stage.
Well,
which would be wrong.
Yeah.
You don't want to. It says click on the stage to trigger an automation to trigger
from automatic to manual.
Right. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to just go now and hit create. Right. But everyone always wants to click that.
You think you need to, right?
You think you need to. It's like, especially when you have multiple stages and everyone goes, oh, I want this first stage.
So it does say I manually triggered it.
Yep.
Using the latest code drop. Which is fine because we're not using the continuous integration hooks.
Yep.
And then deploy to Azure. So do it. Deploy to Azure.
I'm not seeing. Oh, I'm sorry.
We did freeze again.
We're frozen again. Yeah. So we're not seeing what you're seeing.
You know, Frozen 2 is coming out later this year.
Hey, yeah, let's talk about that.
And I saw Toy Story 4.
You saw Toy Story 4?
I did see it. Yeah.
Everybody says it's really good.
It was good.
You know who I heard was really good? Like Tom Hanks, I saw an interview with him. He said it was a really good.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say when he was down my house. I would have been super impressed.
Well,
but instead, I'm not.
So it was a good movie, probably.
It was good. They do a great job. If you're a big Toy Story fan, you're gonna love it. And so the reason why I brought up Frozen is there was a trailer for Frozen before the movie.
Oh, sure.
And Frozen 2 coming out later this year. And I have to admit, I always get nervous about these sequels. Like, oh, they're just making a sequel to be a sequel. It can't. I mean,
like
really,
Toy Story 4,
I really hope they have a great. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I said, this looks like they got a good idea here. It's not just let's just do whatever. Looks pretty good.
Haven't seen the preview yet.
You mentioned about Tom Hanks. It's funny. So if my wife was here, she would say that when she worked at Disneyland, she bumped into Tom Hanks. And when she says that, she means she bumped into Tom Hanks. Like they
carrying coffee kind of thing.
She was working. She was basically moving around backstage, and she was late to get back to her shift. So she is hustling, and obviously, if you've never been backstage at a Disney theme park, it's not optimized for things like sight lines or lights. Even I mean, the corridors can get narrow, and if you come hard around the corner, there could be somebody standing there. And so she did. She said she came hard around the corner, and they were moving Mr. Hanks backstage just to avoid some crowds. They often do that in Anaheim, not because the celebrity thinks they're all
that. They do that for Rich Ross. Like when Rich is there.
When Rich is there, they do that. But part of it is because if Tom Hanks tried to go from Adventureland to Tomorrowland, he would get stopped by 400 fans. Very nice fans along the way, but it's like, Mr. Hanks, let's just get you there.
Takes a while, yeah.
So she comes around the corner, bam, looks up, recognizes who it is, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And he says, no, you're fine. Have a nice day. And that was it. That was her interaction with Mr. Hanks, which is pretty cool. She loves telling that story, so now I've stolen that from her. Anyways, so deploy to Azure succeeded
while we were talking Tom Hanks.
So now, if I go back to this where were we? Where did I have our welcome to Azure? Right here. Okay, I got to hit refresh, right? Isn't that what Satya says?
Well,
it didn't do it. Why not?
Well, why don't we go look at the output of the
app? Did I pick the wrong group?
You might know. The app service is called PDN Razor Pages.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we look at your build? Your release, and we can look at the
Okay.
The
What was
output?
the output of the release?
Yeah.
Right.
So
So I'm back in the. I want to go to release 1, and
Yeah.
there's going to be an. Or I want to go to the build.
well, you want to go to the output of. If you go to the build, you'll see a list of okay.
This isn't the build.
So you don't want to go to the build. You want to go to the.
It is the release
Yep.
pipeline. Okay.
You want to go to the release, and you want to go click on release 1. I think. No, if you don't want to edit it.
Go to the logs.
Okay, go to logs. Yeah, that's.
So download artifact. It says the artifact was good. We can look at it. Very small print.
Yeah, not much.
Zoomed in a little bit.
You can, because you're zooming the browser.
Zoomed in the browser. Right.
Downloaded artifacts. Okay. Now it's possible the artifact was empty. We never checked the zip file.
You're right. We didn't. You're right. So next task was deploy it to Azure App Service.
And it shows the URL, PDN Razor pages. You can click that. Is that the URL we were at? I think it was, but
That's a good question. Yeah, pdnrazorpages.azurewebsites.net.
okay.
Okay. Sorry. And then the next task was finalize the job, which really wasn't much, right?
Right.
But it's saying,
Unless that
oh,
.NET.
interesting.
Yeah.
Look at how it says the app service
I can't
application
see it.
URL is HTTP, not HTTPS. That doesn't matter though, right?
No. I mean, because you didn't configure HTTPS for the thing.
Please tell me
So you're at
not-
HTTPS.
Please tell me that's not it. I don't think so.
Okay.
So,
By the way, an important thing to remember right
Mhm.
now, this is a side note altogether, but you mentioned that it's not HTTPS or whatever. It's also worth mentioning that it is a publicly accessible URL right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a little troubling, like by default to me, when you're at work.
Oh, at
Testing
work,
things.
sure.
You have to be very careful to make sure you make these things private if you want them to be private.
I hope a bash would come up because then we
So,
could.
you can do that from the panel, from the Azure portal. It might be good to show people how you get through and look at those things.
Okay. I mean, you're right. I knew the address.
Yeah, I noticed
But
you typed it right
you can
in.
get to the same place. So
Yeah.
here's what's in there. Look at that.
Oh, wait, I'm not seeing your screen. Oh, God, I'm looking.
PDN Razor Pages. You know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering if I did not spell this correctly. Because it is Linux.
Oh, God,
So
I
it
don't know
better
about that
be
stuff.
it better be exact. So let's go back.
Hang on, because Rich is,
Yeah.
yeah.
What I'm thinking is that my .NET command
Mm-hmm.
may have a Linux misspelling in it. Well, not a Linux misspelling.
Right. A regular misspelling.
It's a regular misspelling, but it affects. But us Windows users have gotten away with it for a long time. So while we're coming back up here, I'm just gonna double check on it.
Yeah. Rich is still working. Oh, here we go. Okay. So you're gonna go back down to your.
To my release. No,
Not
it is the release.
You want to make sure you're in the.
It's deploy the Azure App Service. So I want to edit it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not editing. So I want to edit this. I want to go find deploy Azure App Service.
We gotta get your mouse active on this thing too, by the way. 'cause
And
it's
yeah,
real hard to
look,
follow
this
you.
isn't right. It's pdnrazorpages.web.
Right.
.web. So
.web.
So I goofed. Yeah, I definitely.
.web.
I goofed here.
.dll, by the way,
Yeah.
not just .web.
So I need to edit this. Can
Yep.
I edit it here? Well, for one thing, and runtime stack is not listed. It's funny. Earlier when we were in this,
I didn't
when we were in
notice
this
that.
task, I didn't see any of these things. You know what's going to happen is we're going to end up looking at the YAML right now. We're going to say view the YAML, come straight here, and
Yeah, but YAML's not fully
didn't-
supported
yeah, this
in.
didn't help me.
You're in because you
Yeah.
don't want to use YAML because
How
YAML.
do I edit this?
You can just change it. What are you talking about?
Really?
Yeah. Well, I can't see your mouse over here,
I
but
can click here and change.
because you're
this.
not in the right. See, because you're not in the. Oh, you are in edit mode.
Mhm.
What are you?
It's like I can't edit some of these things for a reason that I don't
I've
understand.
not seen that before. Can you edit the name? Like, just like the first box. Like, can you change that? Yeah. So that's editable. Okay. And so the one you can't edit is.
Right.
I can't see your mouse on that screen, right? So.
I need to change this because it's not
But
.NET.
it's grayed out.
I was wrong.
Yeah. So why wouldn't it let you edit that? That's interesting. You could re-add this step, but that seems like a lot of. Huh. Rich, what do we do to get his mouse to show up when he's moving around? Is that something you do on your end, or it just won't do that? Right. So it should show the mouse. Right. I just find it a little hard to follow. I wonder if other people find it hard to follow.
This setting is linked to the startup command pipeline parameter. So does that mean I can go find that parameter somewhere else?
Well, so if you go to pipeline parameters,
is that variable?
Well,
pipeline. Yeah. Where are the parameters?
Oh, okay, wait. So go back to pipeline. Is it
so
what Rich seems to
go into your task where you were.
Yeah.
Check deploy to Azure at the top. Nope. So where it's right under where it says tasks, and there's that big box.
Yeah. You're talking about that one right there, this thing. Oop, is that touchscreen?
It is.
Okay, cool. So it worked. And hit the dots probably. Is that what you want to do?
Well, now that he selected that, those options are now there on the right side.
Here, parameters. Oh, here's the command.
Oh, okay. So earlier, when I was editing things in here, I was editing the deploy to Azure deployment process parameters, which get inherited by the task.
That's why we didn't see all the boxes. Because we weren't in the task. I don't know if they have to be. I wonder if you leave them blank, if you can just edit them in the task. Because
probably, right?
I don't remember ever doing that at that level before.
When you start a new pipeline, you're going to see red in both places. If you do it at deploy to Azure, you're going to inherit them.
Right. But if he didn't, he would be able to edit it in that lower section.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's why
but he'd have to do it twice.
But you'd probably, as you make a larger pipeline, you probably do want to inherit most, if not all things.
Okay.
So, okay. This should do it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Definitely.
Oh, you're...
Let it fly.
Huh?
Let it fly.
Yeah.
Here we go. Create release. I wish we would have explained what happened there a little bit better, but whatever. I think that went pretty well, considering that I couldn't believe that here we were again with the host, like, darn it, that why isn't it running it? Why is it showing hosting start.html? It's like, oh, because it probably tried to run .NET. It probably tried to run the command and was like, that didn't work.
Right.
Well, somebody's asking for homepage. This hosting start HTML is the default document. That seems pretty good to me.
I wonder if we had application insights set up, would that error happen too early because that's like run, or would app insights have shown us the error and would, because that's a good talk, like to show how we put insights on us. We should.
Yeah. No, I agree. Azure, all the Azure monitoring stuff is coming. We know that's important. So it says succeeded.
Rich is thinking like maybe it would show that, maybe it wouldn't.
Well, I'm thinking you might see the exception.
That's what I mean, the exception, and then we would be able to derive from that,
Hey, that's it.
Wait, we're
That's
not
on
seeing
the
his screen.
interwebs.
Hang on. Are we seeing?
So,
his
anyways,
screen?
the deployment finished.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, hang on. He's not showing your screen.
I'm going to come back. The deployment finished.
Yeah.
It said succeeded. Deploy to Azure App Service. You go to the home page, and there it is. So we did it. Woo-hoo! It only took a couple hours. That's all right.
Yeah, it took.
But we learned a lot.
Well,
and next time we can do it.
Honestly, it's those failures where you learn.
And this is what everyone else is going to run into.
Right.
If I was going to do a presentation on this, I would try to figure out how to at least say, watch out, if not outright repeat the failures, which sometimes I'll do unless it's going to be super time consuming.
You don't always have 2 hours.
Yeah. But I will flat out tell the audience, I lost 3 hours on this. Right. So don't forget when you get to this step to be sure you do this way, or this is what might happen to you.
But if it
and it doesn't have to be with Azure DevOps, it could be with anything.
If it had worked, would we know that your wife bumped into Tom Hanks?
No, we wouldn't have learned any of that.
And so I feel like it's the journey that's really important, right?
So yeah, we're deployed out to Azure. We're in an Azure web app on Linux using the code model. Azure Web Apps for Linux has a Docker container model too.
Yep.
They don't have that for Windows though, right? I don't think so.
You can do Windows containers in Azure.
You can do Windows containers in Azure.
Right.
On Azure App Service.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the examples around that is we did with a customer. We took a legacy 4.x framework.
Yep.
dropped it into a container through Visual Studio by right-clicking, saying enable container, I think, or enable Docker, something like that. There's a right-click in Visual Studio that lets you do that, and then wrap it up and set it up into Azure.
All right.
What can't you do?
Right. So
That's,
next steps for this, right, is this is eventually the prototype for a new website, but we want it to be in Blazor. So the reason why didn't we just go straight to Blazor? And the answer is that in Azure Dev Ops, we saw options for .NET Core frameworks, and we did not see .NET Core 3.0. So without having to do anything extra, I just clicked .NET Core 2.2. Also did that over when I made the Azure, which you didn't get to see, made the Azure web app, said it was a .NET Core 2.2 web app, and didn't have to do any extra work. Now, the great thing about .NET Core is you can bring your own framework. So we can, and this would have been a lot more work. What we will do when we have the Blazor project is we will go modify the pipeline and say our build process, our publish process is also going to include framework, and then we're going to ship the .NET Core 3 preview along with it, so that way Blazor will run, because it's got to be .NET Core 3.
Yep.
And that's all. That will be the next step, so that we are a Blazor app. And then once we're a Blazor app, we actually start implementing some of the features that we're thinking about. So.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So, and that's perfect because next time is Blazor here at Philly.net.
Is that right?
Yeah. Hands-on lab.
What night is that?
Blazor next Wednesday.
A week from tonight.
Next Wednesday, but some people might watch this later.
You
so
could watch July 10th. We
10th.
start at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern on all the same channels, Mixer.com, Twitch, and YouTube, always with the /Philly DOTNET. And then we'll be here for the after show to see if we might improve a little bit on shipping Blazor.
Given what you learned,
we might make it worse.
We've got some other topics that we probably won't get into too much tonight, but something everyone should know about. And I want to go through these tips. I feel like there's a show where we can go through these tips.
It's almost cheating. Like, Mads should do the show, but
yeah,
his tips are the best. Mads knows, he's so
There's
awesome.
other tips that I think we can give people. But Mads,
do we want to show? We're not seeing your screen.
Yeah, so on my screen,
he's working on
Mads Torgerson, who is a legend about making Visual Studio developers more productive. He really revived the whole extension movement, I think.
Single-handedly.
Pretty much single-handedly.
Yeah.
He has, you can find some fantastic conference sessions where he builds Visual Studio extensions right in front of you because he wants to evangelize. You can do it too, and it's wonderful, and you'll be happy. And he has a blog post where he's basically picked a few of his.
I think,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
He picked a few of his favorite tips from the VSTip hashtag on Twitter, which has become a pretty common place for people to start pushing. Hey, here's what I do in Visual Studio. Here's what I do, right?
And your screen locked up.
And he, So his blog post, he has about 5 or 6 of them. Some of them are new. Some of them took place several versions ago. And what's awesome is the blog post will even say that. It'll even say, this has been around since VS 2019.
Yeah.
You go, oh, that's nice.
That's
And
nice.
then this has
been
been around 10 years. And you're like,
I
really?
didn't know about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was talking to Jeff Fritz today, actually, about demos when you're at a code camp or you're at an event or something like that, and doing like those Visual Studio tips things. Everybody gets something out of those talks. Those are such great talks.
Well, look at this one. Never knew this, right? How many times did you set an initial breakpoint early in the code, like as early as you could,
right?
Yeah.
And then you'd start debugging. And he says,
you don't even need.
If you hit F10,
instead of F5.
Yeah, instead of F5, we break on the first line of your code,
right?
And we've had it since Visual Studio
2005.
Yeah,
can you
put that right above your head?
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
2005.
2005.
That's great. That's awesome.
I've never known that.
I'm like, wow.
Right. So we hand in our Microsoft MVP.
I wish he would have said. I wish he would have said supported from Visual Studio 2021. Then I would feel much better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you know what? And I was saying to Rich earlier on some of these tips. Sometimes you see these tips and you go, "That how did I not know that?"
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you see them and you go, "Oh yeah, I know that one." And then there's the other group where you go, "That sounds familiar. I think I used to do that."
Yeah.
And I forgot about
Right.
it since then. Maybe we changed Visual Studio and you never
Yep.
enabled something or whatever, and you're like, ah.
Yep.
Yeah. So one of the ones that I'm in, in one of my favorites that's in there is the paste classes adjacent.
Yep.
Or
I
paste
just
adjacent
used that.
classes.
I've recently used that one. That's a great one.
That's been in for a while, and it is very useful.
2013 it says there.
Especially because
I think you missed it. It's up a little bit.
for a lot of us,
Keep going. Keep going.
Yep. Copy any JSON
Oh, there you
fragment
go.
from the clipboard
Yeah.
and paste it as a strongly typed .NET class.
You know what? I don't know if it's because you have that extension enabled, but I can't read your screen. Is that the Azure? Yeah, that's
No.
what I thought. Maybe it was that thing.
No, it's not.
Why is that so blurry?
I don't know.
It looks brown. It's gold on your screen or whatever.
It is-
Yellow.
it's beautiful.
Oh.
It's a beautiful harvest gold.
Okay, we got it.
On my
It looks
screen.
much better
Yeah.
now.
So paste JSON in class is super important when, especially if you're working with JSON in ASP.NET MVC models or the JSON.NET. You often are like in a place where you go, well, I need a representation of what's coming across in JSON, but I want it in .NET, in C#.
And you can
whatever.
deserialize or serialize it
Yeah,
that
right.
way. So that's cool.
Yeah.
He's got all the tips, right? But what I found a little funny, and I don't know, maybe I'm making, somebody on the comments of his post said, "Oh, you forgot 2 tips." And I think Matt said, 2 tips? Like,
Right.
it's only got 5 in it. It's
Yeah.
like billions
He's like,
of
I
tips.
forgot a million
So,
of them.
But I'm sure the poster meant something else, that maybe there was 2 related to or something like
Yeah.
that. But I thought that was funny.
All right. So what else is going on, Rich? What are you using nowadays?
So I'm a little late to the game, I think, but one of the things that I've been playing around with is the new Edge preview.
Earlier than me. I haven't tried it yet.
New Edge preview. This
Yeah.
is the
Yeah,
preview
This
with
is-
Chromium.
In the
Yeah.
as the rendering engine.
Yeah.
So, if you were interested,
I've got the
my
webpage
screen
up.
behind. Hang on. This is fine.
Yep.
So this is Microsoft Edge Insider.com is where you can go ahead and download it, and basically what I think is really cool. Now, granted, I'm showing Chrome here, but if I go over to Edge browser, which is what we were looking at with Mads' post earlier, renders really nicely. Yeah, there's a lot of good similarity to the experience you're seeing in Chrome. But the thing that kept me from going back over to Edge for and staying to use Chrome is this one here. So having the ability to have multiple
Sign-ins.
personas.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
This sealed
Which
it for me.
Chrome
right?
has had for a while. I noticed Firefox has it,
Yep.
and I don't remember when they started. And now it's just a common feature in browsers.
Yeah.
It seems like. Yeah.
And it's great. So you can, when you think about doing demos, I can sign in as myself.
Yep.
And in one browser, not have to go into that in private mode, and essentially have multiple personas up and running at one
That's
time.
nice.
It's become super useful for me when we stream.
Yep.
Because I can be Philly.net. The accounts. We actually, we have a Philly.net persona that does the streaming.
Yep.
And so I can be that account in one browser, but then I can keep that separate from my own logins.
Right.
And that's why I'm not like, well, let me log in as Philly.net. No, let me go log in as
It's
my
a pain
own
in the
account.
neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it also has that like IE compatibility mode or something like that too, right?
Yeah, I haven't played around with that.
Okay.
I haven't had many instances where I've needed to go back.
Well,
to do
consider
that.
yourself lucky.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because at my company there are instances where we need that, right?
Sure. And we have
Trying
some
to get
here
away
too.
from it, but we have them, right? So it's kind of cool that it has that. It'd be interesting to see the future, and how Edge really, can take off. I mean, it is it's the browser it's the Microsoft browser. A lot of people want it. They want a browser. They just want it in there. They get a new computer, Windows 10, use it, right?
Right.
So if it's world class, then why not use it?
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I switched up. Is like you had the last feature I needed, so I'm kind of into.
Because you've already got the extensions, right?
Yep.
And now you've got that feature. How's the debugging? Is it like the debug tools? Are they similar? Is it the same as experience that it used to be?
I have not tried those.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only been about less than a week.
That might be
so.
interesting to check out too, because Visual Studio web development has, if you use Chrome, it connects in the JavaScript, comes into Visual Studio, and you can breakpoint in there. I don't know, does that not work in Firefox? I just honestly don't know.
I haven't used Firefox.
Firefox is like my daily driver.
That's interesting.
It is,
Yeah.
but I'm willing.
Did you just come back to it, or have you always been?
I probably came back to it about 2 years ago.
Any reason?
And part of it was I really. Well, I'm not going to say anything bad about Chrome, but I mean I will.
But.
Except, what is there are some common complaints about Chrome nowadays, right? So,
okay.
I said I'm switching. I don't.
I'm excited
I don't know
to
if
try
it's
this
true or
thing
not.
out. Maybe we can on a show. We can use it as part of our.
I think we can going
tooling.
through Visual Studio tips, because besides Mad's article, I think there's some other tip. And some of these are blasts from the past, but I think we can find some other sets of tips that we could probably put together in a nice segment.
Yeah.
Sarah Ford used to do. She did a blog. She did like 100 of them, 100 tips, and I would like to go find that blog is still out there, because one of them I still use to this day, which is the one on how to change your Visual Studio environment for presenting. So make all the fonts bigger.
Yeah,
So that way the tooltip isn't this tiny little thing.
And Steve Andrews used to do a lot of those tips talks when he was part of our community. Now he's out on the West Coast, but I remember he used to do a lot of those tips presentations too.
So that's it. That's the show. There's no other topics. I don't know.
Well, I think, just to, a lot of people were notified in the last week or so that either
July
new or
1st.
renewed. Yeah, July 1st, being either new inductees or renewed MVPs, Microsoft Valued Professionals, as for the community, and kind of help evangelize the products and the tools and the techniques that you guys are using out there. So you both were re-upped again.
Which is great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to Andy, and I'm very honored. To me, it's an honor. It's every year.
No, it's an honor and a shock. Like sometimes I'm just thinking I didn't do enough.
Yeah.
It's so.
You can't help on July 1st but say, I guess the email's not coming. I guess that's it.
Mine went to the.
it went to the spam folder.
Not the spam folder, the non-focused inbox.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
So I didn't see it until like the end of the day, and I'm scrolling. I wasn't even looking for it. I was, oh my gosh, I got rid of it.
No, it's definitely an honor, because it's a recognition that's not permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Every year Microsoft reevaluates, and there are a lot of amazing people that for many reasons aren't renewed. Some can just be simply that they themselves say, I'm really not contributing the way I used to, because who knows what, any reason, busy at work, growing family, who knows. And so it is nice to be back in the fold again, and MVP Summit is a wonderful experience where I learn more that week from our fellow MVPs. It's unbelievable. So appreciate the congratulations from Rebel Zoo there on Mixer. That's really nice.
Thanks. Yeah. There's a lot of people. You mentioned there's MVPs that don't get renewed. There's a lot of really smart people that are in the community that also don't just. They're never in the program, right?
Yep.
And I think it's worth recognizing, there's a lot of people. This community that we're in is big, and you can learn a lot from so many people. And the MVP award is really nice recognition, and I'm honored. Right? I'm always honored, right? But there are so many people that do so much that are not in the community, and well, listen, I guess Microsoft, they evaluate based on people being submitted.
Sometimes it's up to us to introduce them.
Right.
To introduce Microsoft to them and say,
and we
because
try
you
to
can
do that,
nominate, and you say, look, this person, you may not know about him, but you should. And certainly there are some folks that I have in mind. Or another thing that I think is wonderful to do is, if you see potential in somebody, say, hey, I think you talk to them a little bit, and sometimes get them over the initial fear of speaking, and next thing you know, you're saying, yeah, we should figure out how to nominate this person. So
yeah, that's cool. It's a good program.
Yeah. So no, thanks for adding that, Rich.
And you guys,
I would have never said it myself.
He did. It's a cake?
I don't think he did.
No, I wouldn't have said it either.
I wouldn't have mentioned.
I didn't even put it. I don't think I even put I'm renewed on Twitter to
I
check.
did.
Yeah, I
Only-
usually do, but I didn't even.
Only because I think, a lot of your friends and fellow MVPs are looking for it. Like who did I see? Who didn't I see?
And I know Bill Wolf was renewed. I believe Alvin Ashcraft was renewed.
Yep. Chris
Okay.
Love.
Chris Love was renewed.
Yeah,
Right.
just from
We
our
have
area.
a big community
We
in
do.
Philly of people that we're lucky. We have a big community of MVPs and,
Yeah.
and things like that. And so, yeah, it's a cool honor. Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely, big honor. You guys should be proud of the work you guys are doing in the community, and this is just a small part of it. So
Yeah,
So-
this was a lot of fun. We put some time in, but that's okay. Hopefully, you get a good idea of how it's okay to go ahead and open up Azure DevOps. You can do everything we did. You didn't necessarily need Visual Studio. You could do it all with Visual Studio Code. But if you want Visual Studio Community is free, and it's the Visual Studio Professional bits.
Yep.
So you're getting all that power. You can do exactly what we did. You can build a .NET Core application. You can get that pushed up to a repository. You could use Azure repos if you like, or you could use GitHub and use Azure pipelines to both build and release out to Azure. And today, a lot of it, we've cut some steps. Like I already had the resource group ready in Azure. But what's really cool is you can have Azure DevOps provision that too. And in fact, in the portal, I don't have to show it, but in the portal, there are Azure DevOps projects. So you go into the Azure portal, not the Azure DevOps portal. In the Azure portal, you say you want a new Azure DevOps project, and you can pick out a .NET Core on Linux one. And what's nice about that is you can go look at this completed thing and reverse engineer it to say, and it's more complete than the one we did. The steps are more, they're laid out. The pipeline is 6 or 7 steps. It's much more granular, and you can learn a lot from that, I think, and build better pipelines.
yeah,
So I'm learning from it. I mean, heck, that's how we finished this.
yeah. So in basically 5 minutes of clicking around and a couple of minutes of it building in the background, we could have saved 2 hours we were here.
Sure.
But
at the same time,
We
part of
wouldn't
it
have
was
gotten-
wanted to slog through and understand.
absolutely,
So what is this thing doing?
Yep.
And what are the, because now someday it's not going to be good enough to use that template.
sure. Or you may have to
Do
go
something
off
different.
something where the template
Yeah.
isn't what you exactly need.
Because you can quite literally do anything here in Azure DevOps. I'm certain we could probably deploy other Azure resources. We could deploy to Azure, probably deploy to Azure Functions, and
Done
I
that.
wouldn't be
You
surprised.
certainly can do that.
I'd be surprised if we couldn't deploy to Azure SQL, and
I think you
I
can
just-
do. I mean,
I just don't know how, right?
yeah,
You can
there's
script
a,
it.
There's a lot you can do.
Yeah.
It's powerful. I mean, so if you think about I think Rich was probably the one who explained this to me, so maybe I'll hand it back to you. But their ARM is the sort of foundation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's CLI and things like that, but Azure Resource Manager is like
Yeah.
anything that's in Azure sort of can be
Ye-
accessed by ARM. Or it's a gray
Yeah.
area.
So
I got him in trouble. I just pointed out.
Well,
I said,
there's probably a race. There's probably a race going on of features, and let's get the ARM templates
well,
up to date.
okay, right, of course.
So
And-
everything in Azure is built on the resource manager
Yeah.
way of doing
Yeah.
things. As opposed to, you may have heard of Classic,
Yeah.
which was service manager based. But basically, if you go to a resource group that you create in Azure, you can say, show me the deployment script of this, or the automation of this, I think is what we're calling
yeah,
it
we
now.
can show that, right?
And then you can download everything that's inside that resource group through that resource template. Some services, there were at least a small number of services that weren't able to come over that way.
okay.
Bot framework or bot channels was one of them.
Ooh,
So you didn't have a way of in an ARM template, and I'm not sure if they've gotten through that or if that's because right now we have a set of tools where you command line do that. So that's why it's not complete, but there's for the most part there's things that you're going to create with app services, key vaults, databases, Cosmos, SQL, what have you. They're going to reside inside of the ARM template,
Right.
and certainly all the IS stuff with the networking and the compute and the storage.
cool.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about ARM versus CLI. I've seen people debate which should you use. But CLI is you can do deployments with CLI, but CLI is going to do what you tell it to do, right? It's going to say, I'm going to create this thing. If it exists, it's going to try to create that thing.
Yep.
ARM is sort of like evening things up. It's saying, I'm going to make sure what is out in Azure matches what's in your template. It's like an upsert.
Yeah,
Right?
and that,
Yeah.
and the step
Is that a good
in
example?
the
Upsert, is that a good analogy? Right?
yeah, because the step in Azure pipelines when you're pointing to an ARM template says create or update
Oh, okay.
based on an ARM template.
Right.
And then you also have, we haven't mentioned it, but that deployment template or that deployment.json as it gets downloaded out of Azure is all of the Azure resource providers and the settings around that. If you parameterize some of those settings, you can actually have a parameter.json file that is your parameters for dev, for test,
Right.
for prod, and use those at the appropriate stage in your pipeline. So
Well,
that,
we'll get there. Well, that's
Yep.
another, right? That's
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another show. So the idea is we keep going and we keep adding to this website, not just from the code point of view, but the feature point of view. We already talked about a few of them. You know, people might be able to log into it, or we should get Azure monitoring going so that when it fails on us, we can say, you know,
I love the fact
figure out what
that
happened.
the feature you wanted to add is that someone might be able to log into it. Why would they log in? There are no features yet for them to log. I'm just joking. Like you've already jumped into security or login as a feature.
Because I don't.
But
I
it
like
doesn't
attacking,
do it. The
I
site
like
doesn't
attacking
do
identity
anything
early.
yet.
Though.
Yeah, but I'm just laughing. The site doesn't do anything yet.
you can't leave security to the last minute.
Yeah,
You gotta
trying
do it
to
up
add-
Can't
front.
leave anything to the left.
Trying to add identity later is hard.
No, that's
Yep.
hard, you're right.
Absolutely.
It's part of the foundation. So, anyways, that's what we'll get through. So, we'll be back next week. I think that's it for tonight. We've gone through quite a bit. Anything
It's a good
else?
show.
Thanks for having me
Pretty
on.
good.
It's always
Yeah.
fun.
No, thanks for being here, and thanks for helping out with Azure DevOps. And we're going to be back next Wednesday, July 10th at 6 p.m. for our hands-on lab with Blazor. So make sure that you are following us on Twitter, just Philly DOTNET. Everything is Philly DOTNET, and because or the meetup site, which I don't have the link here, but our Philly.net meetup. People are signing up right now to come to that lab, and you can be prepared to do the lab with us. You're going to want .NET Core Preview 6, and you can either use Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio 2019 Preview. You'll want to get the Preview install. Use the Visual Studio installer for that. They can install side by side. So we'll be there next week, and we'll be back to talk about Azure.
We just got a new follower
and
while we
Blazor.
were sitting
Yeah.
here, right?
Definitely. Thanks
Like
for
that.
following.
Cool.
We chat
Thanks,
about
Tandy.
we chat up on our
Tandy 100. Awesome. Thank you.
we also chat on Discord, which is a modern chat service with multiple channels, and you can feel free to ask us questions there too.
Yep.
So for Rich behind the camera, thank you very much,
Thanks, guys.
and Andy, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for everybody out there, we will see you next week. Thanks for joining us, and good night.